Chapter 1. You're gonna make me lose my mind. They all wear masks in the city. No one shows their true face here, and everyone has a dark side to them, no matter what good they intended to bring. It'll never make them heroes. Izuku was born in the downtrodden side of the city after his mother became pregnant with the child of an asshole who wasn't willing to provide her or the boy she was carrying. She befriended her neighbor in the shitty apartment complex where she managed to get herself a home. The other woman's husband had gotten mixed up as collateral damage in a robbery of their store and died of a fatal gun wound. There were two women left alone with their babies in a dark city. Luckily enough, they had each other, and they helped each other. Ingo started working at the Bakugo school, and little by little they managed to get the store safely built out of the way of criminal gangs and thugs, yet not enough to move themselves to safety too. So their boys grew up on unsafe streets where they learned to fight before they could talk. It wasn't any surprise to the mothers that they grew up with foul mouths and less than innocent minds. They took things into their own hands. Izuku knows where he came from and what he became. So does Katsuki, because they did it together. The others came later. Izuku and Katsuki came from the same block. Monoma came from the middle section of the trash where they had a fake sense of safety. Shigaraki fell from heavens. He bit the silver spoon that fed him and turned to the shadows to enact his revenge on the man that rules the city from his throne of corruption and corpses. All for one. They all had code names of their own, but only one person knows the true identity of All for One. Yet he never said a word, since the name doesn't matter in the position that threatens them all. Bad people always take advantage of the good, so Izuku and Katsuki became bad to protect the neighborhood they grew up in. They split apart in high school when Katsuki got into high school and Izuku dropped out because the teachers thought he was creepy. It turned out okay in the end. He found himself some similar-minded friends who became his squad. Katsuki built his own squad when in school, and soon enough there were two growing mob groups in the same area, gaining a reputation and aura of fear. They earned their power by making it known they won't be fucked with, and their neighborhood got cleaner under their thumb. Both squads knew that their leaders had something unsaid between them, but they never got involved because of the first rule of UA. Don't have anything to lose. Of course, in this whole mess, there were still influential people who never picked a side, those who simply organized into their own factions that are loyal to anyone who pays them the most money for their resources. Earphone Jack, the best hacker in the city, they see and hear everything. The influencers, a duo with a lot of cash to spend and many connections to help spend it. The intelligence, rumored to work alongside Earphone Jack for information they can't access via camera feeds. And lastly, the hitmen, funded by someone with a personal beef against a disgraced police captain. It is said the eldest son shot up his whole family, leaving the father with the blood of his family to clean up. The police force does shit for all in this city. They like to think they are cleaning up the streets, but they are underfunded by the asshole who has corrupted the city in the first place. The new bastard that took over for Endeavor is fresh out of the clouds with his head, and his mission is to hunt down mob bosses. He's having shit luck with that though. Izuku has this talent of having friends in many fortunate places. That doesn't mean Deku appreciates someone attempting to double him. Heard you've been linking yourself with dynamite. Not a question. The lowlife knows it. but smiles sheepishly anyway as he tries to save his skin. The rules are simple. 1. Each one of them has their own business, and the other stays out of it. 2. When you join one, you are loyal till death do part. 3. Moles are shot on sight. The boy knew what would happen if he got caught. Deku has the proof. This questioning is simply a formality. You know I'm loyal to you, boss. The boy attempts to suck up, and Deku clicks his tongue before throwing the blade he had been toying with on his desk. Answer the question. The boy gulps as Ochako jumps off his desk playfully, and Shoto stands fierce behind Deku. I think we'd know the answer already. Ochako grins, and Deku can see the boy shiver in fear. Teach him a lesson, then dump him on dynamite. I'm sure those bastards would love to know they've been doubled too. Shoto sends a side glance Deku's way. That's cruel. You know Sarah will maul him to pieces. Deku shrugs. Too bad. He won't be our problem anymore. Shoto rolls his eyes as Ochako runs to punch the traitor out cold before Shoto swings him over his shoulder. Just ring them up first, would you? I don't want to be stuck explaining this if I run into those scumbags again. Deku coos. Oh, come on, Shoto. Be nice. They are our neighbors. The deal-haired boy sends a blank glare his way before closing the door behind him, and Deku chuckles to himself as he dials the familiar number. What? The angry voice he knows so well barks at him in that greeting way of his. I have a delivery coming your way, Deku tells him, and the blonde huffs over the line. Who? Deku shrugs. Don't know, some extra, but he was two-timing between our two businesses. Izuku can imagine the scowl deepening on the blonde's face. I'll let the idiots know. With that, the line goes dead, but Izuku can't stop smiling to himself. It's Ka-chan after all. Katsuki ends the call before the nerd can give anything else away, unaware of listening ears. The smug blonde sitting across from him looks far too intrigued for his comfort. Kiri, let Sarah and Denki know that there will be a delivery from Deku, a toy for them to play with. He orders his second-hand man, and the redhead nods and texts away. Monoma's eyes widen at the choice of words. The man had heard the conversation. He knew what the toy was. He should also know what happens to two-timing moles. In their neighborhood, one false move is one too many. So uncivilized, the man mutters, and Katsuki scoffs. I don't make you explain your business. Don't come into mine. The arsehole grins and shoves the case towards Katsuki before fishing his ridiculous suit to get something only for Katsuki to pull a gun on him, which in favor gets everyone else in the room to get their weapons ready and pointed at the redhead. Monoma chuckles nervously, but somehow still arrogantly, and Katsuki is entirely unperturbed at the whole scene as he started counting the cash in the case. We doing business or what? Monoma chuckles. I was just getting a pen, he reassures the redhead before addressing Katsuki again. Your boy is a bit jumpy, eh? Katsuki throws him a pen to sign the contract and sits idly back to watch the man sign his end of the deal. And yours ain't? The man puts the pen down next to his signature, and with almost unnoticeable hand movements, his team sheaths their weapons. Pleasure doing business with you. Kirishima nods his head at the mob boss, and Monomad grins wide. The pleasure is all mine. With that, his squad leaves, and Monmal calls out to them one more time before closing the door behind him. "Give Deku my best wishes." Katsuki scoffs once the door slams shut, closing the case and shoving it towards Kirishima. "Hand this over to Mina. Tell her to get it digitized into separate accounts." Kirishima nods firmly before sporting a grin of his own, one that Katsuki doesn't necessarily like, but is more welcome than Monoma's. "Do give Deku my best wishes," he mocks, and Katsuki throws a pen at him that Kirishima doesn't even bother dodging in his amusement. Katsuki sometimes really hates going back home. Each time it's a slap in the face that no matter how hard he tries, no matter who they kill or threaten, they can't move their mothers out of safety since the concept doesn't exist, especially if they land in another man's territory. At least now, with the deal he made with Monoma, the Dynamite Squad has more moving ground, including all those he protects. A very similar shadow runs up to him just as he mounts his bike. "Cutting it close, nerd. What would you have done if I'd left without you, huh?" "You wouldn't. Kachan would get an earful from Auntie Mitsuki," Izuku resorts with a knowing smile, and Katsuki scoffs, but hands him a helmet to go over those unruly curls of his. "Get on, nerd." Izuku doesn't need to be asked twice, and Katsuki is glad for the helmet covering his head so he can hide that small smile of his. "The extra cash has been dealt with," Katsuki informs the Greenette when they stop at the red light and the other smacks him in the head. "No work talk, Kachan." "Ouch, fine," Katsuki huffs, and Izuku laughs as they set back on the road. It is simply refreshing to simply be with the nerd, no matter all they do as their job. They can still sometimes be kids that grew up together. "Fuck, what is that sound?" Katsuki grumbles when they come up on the next light. They are not so far off from home anymore, and Izuku pats him on the head 3 times. Feds. Their sirens somehow only get closer as Katsuki picks up speed, running the light and trying to lose them in traffic. It's all fun and games until he hears the cocking of a gun and Izuku's holding onto his shoulder as he turns and starts shooting at the cops to get them off their back. "Fuck, nerd, hold steady, you're gonna kill us both," Katsuki grumbles as Izuku, standing, fucks up their balance. Izuku whacks him over the head before landing 4 precise shots at the front wheels of each cop car, bringing them to an abrupt stop and crash. "These fuckers can't give us a night off," he huffs under his breath as he swerves into traffic. "Keep to the back roads and let's do a couple more loops to be sure we've lost them," Izuku orders as he sits back down, yet doesn't pocket his gun. "You ain't the boss of me, Deku," Kachan warns, and Izuku coos. "Please." Kachan scowls, but does as requested because it's logical. Neither one of them wants to lead them to their mums. They already tried to get the ladies under witness protection once. Never again. If they are in the hands of the law, it makes it rather tricky to keep them safe from outside law-doers. He slows down in speed and hides between law-abiding citizens in the traffic. They delay their arrival by 20 minutes, but it's worth to be safe. Izuku winces when he gets off the bike and hands Katsuki his helmet to tuck away. Katsuki glares at him. "What happened?" Izuku shrugs, but winces at a stretch on his back. "I think I pulled something in my back when shooting at the cops." Katsuki scoffs as they start walking into the building. "Serves you right for standing up on a bike." "Hey, it's due to your shitty driving that I had to keep myself steady," Izuku defends, and Katsuki clicks his tongue. "Next time you can get your own ride," Katsuki spits, and Izuku grins at him and grabs a hold of one of his hands that he tucked into the pocket of his jeans. "Kachan doesn't really mean that," Izuku coos, and Katsuki turns to him with a knowing smile before kissing his temple and pulling his hand out of Izuku's in favor of wrapping an arm over his shoulder. "You did great, nerd." Izuku huffs but smiles back. "Of course I did. I'm an excellent shot." Katsuki rolls his eyes and shoves the guy back away with a chuckle. Just as he rings the doorbell for Auntie Inko's door, Izuku chuckles beside him and leans against the wall beside the door as they wait, pulling Katsuki in closer so he can wrap his arms around the blonde's neck. "You know you find it hot when I've got my gun out." "Not the only gun of yours I find hot," Katsuki tells him playfully, and Izuku blushes red. "What?" A female voice suddenly yells into the hallway, and Izuku jumps right out of his skin at the sudden opening of the door, but Katsuki doesn't let him get out of the cage he placed himself in only a moment ago. "Auntie Mitsuki!" The woman takes one look between them before smacking Katsuki on the head. "Brat, kiss your boyfriend for fuck's sake," Katsuki growls as she pinches the bridge of her nose. "God, I swear, you do not deserve that boy." Katsuki snarls, pulls Izuku with him into the house, and closes the door behind them. He kisses me enough, Auntie, I promise." Izuku stumbles over himself to defend their relationship. "Stay out of this, Zuku. It's none of her business how much we kiss or fuck." Izuku goes red again at the later admission, and Katsuki can't help grinning at that. "Fine, you want to see me kiss him?" Katsuki snaps at his mum before taking 3 steps and kissing his nerd silly for blushing like a virgin. Izuku gasps in the kiss, and Katsuki relaxes to the sound of his nerd in his arm. Izuku hides his face from his mum as he helps set the table. "You wouldn't think that you two were feared mob bosses by how easily you comply to one Bakugo Mitsuki," she comments to Katsuki, and the blonde scoffs as he helps her with the food. "Where do you think I learnt to be that scary?" Inko laughs, but then her face slowly drops. "I do wish that you would give up crime, though. The stress is driving me crazy," she admits, and Katsuki gently grabs at her shoulder. "Sorry for worrying you, Auntie." Izuku softly gazes at them, and his eyes meet those shining red ones he loved so much. Both share a look that knows they can't promise to give up crime, but they can promise to keep each other safe. Another ringing of the doorbell startles them all, and with Mitsuki closest to the door, she opens it with her signature scowl. "Oi, Mr. Mob Boss, why the hell are the cops bothering me now?" she yells back at Katsuki, and Izuku tries to smother his laughter at Katsuki's dropped face at the sudden switch of attitude. "I don't fucking know, Ma. We had false plates on when we dodged the fucking feds," he barks back before Inko suddenly seems to remember herself. Izuku watches his mother rush past them to reopen the door that Mitsuki had slammed in the face of whoever was on the other side. "Oh, he's actually here for me." Everyone turns a questioning look Inko's way as she opens the door to Aizawa. Katsuki gawks as Izuku looks at him with a questioning glare. Inko simply ushers him, entirely unbothered by everyone else. "Mom, what's going on?" Izuku eventually asks when the detective is settled on the couch. "Oh, honey, you remember Aizawa?" Izuku nods. Yeah, he remembered the man that let him go after catching him beating up a guy that attempted to double-cross him when he was 18. The man has been his leak into the police department since. They are on decent terms as mob boss can be with a cop. Inko, on the other hand, only knows about the first bit. She smiles sweetly at him. "Well, I ran into him a couple more times when shopping, and we got to talking. He's a very good companion." "You're dating my mom?" Izuku screeches at the man, and he snorts into his drink. Inko laughs and waves her hand around energetically. "Oh goodness no, honey, he's gay for starters. We're simply friends." Katsuki hadn't quite recovered next to him and looked at the detective in distrust as the man coughs to clear his throat. Izuku knows that he'll get an earful from the blonde after this for not telling him he had a deal going on with the detective, but in their line of work, they can only share so much without it getting complicated. Typical Inko, making friends with cops when her son is a criminal. Mitsuki simply laughs it off and the night continues. When the food is finally ready and they start placing it on the table, Aizawa stands up from where he was banned to do anything to join them. "Are we waiting for anyone else?" he asks when he looks at the table setting, and his mother smiles sweetly, the way she naturally does. "Just Izuku's brother." "Izuku's brother, not your son?" "It's complicated." Izuku waves him off, and the detective doesn't look pleased. Katsuki simply grins from where he already sat at his assigned seat and pulls Izuku to sit down onto the one beside him. The detective wasn't entirely aware of Izuku's and his situationship, so Izuku was impressed that the man isn't showing his outright surprise on his face. "So, Mr. Cop, do you have any life partners?" Mitsuki questions as she starts pouring the drinks into glasses to fill the waiting time. Aizawa frowns. "No, being a cop in the city is hard work and dangerous," he answers carefully, not looking at the two men in this room that makes his job difficult and dangerous. Mitsuki, though, doesn't seem all that impressed by the answer and huffs. That doesn't stop these two, though they do keep it private to their place and here." Aizawa raises a brow. "You two live together?" Izuku and Katsuki shares a look just as the doorbell rings again, happily interrupting whatever would have been said next. They did in fact live together, but not always, since their job makes it that they live on the premise of their work base. The team only suspects simply because Izuku and Katsuki have been seen roaming around, accommodating quarters of the other. Izuku stands from his chair to meet his brother. "Tenko-chan!" Izuku and Katsuki are the only ones who know and get used to that name. Officially, the identity to that name does not exist after a certain powerful mayor took him in and changed his name to fit a powerful successor. But in their homes, they don't want to be reminded of the identity they wear outside, don't want to show the masks they became to survive in their cruel world. Tenko notices the detective immediately and glares at Katsuki as if he's to blame, making Izuku laugh. "No, Mum invited him," Izuku quickly explains, and his brother turns to the woman in question, who shrugs with a smile. Inko isn't entirely aware that they are brothers in crime as well as biologically. They share the same asset of a sperm donor. That's all she knows, and why she was very open to meeting the man when she learned he had run away from home. "Aizawa, meet Shigaraki Tomura." Izuku introduces them, and Tenko grins wide as Aizawa downs his drink in one go, eyes wide as saucers. "Good lord, any other secrets you have, Broccoli Head?" The man sighs, and Izuku grins widely, leaving the man's rhetorical question unanswered as they all head for the table to finally start their dinner. Of course, he has many secrets still lying in wait, but the detective will just have to uncover those over time. A man always has a pocket full of secrets that match the color of his mask. What's most important is remembering where to take it off and who to show the real face underneath to. Izuku and Katsuki learned that young, but their mothers always reminded them, even in the dark world they find themselves in, they could make their way together. In the end, they learned the most important thing. No matter what, they were only human. Chapter 2. Whoop whoop, that's the sound of the police. "Ladies, the man is straight. You are on flirting and poisoning duty," Deku orders nicely as he reads through the case file of proof they have on the man. A commission officer, He attempted to assault them with cases against them and threatened to have them outed to the mayor for the underground crime pursuits. Aizawa had delivered the file to them in order to deal with a menace who was also starting to become a headache for the police department. Deku was all for getting rid of him. It seems he also gets touchy, so use that to your advantage if you can. He frequents the same bars and seems to enjoy his spirits, so if we catch him at the right time of night, he won't taste any poison in his drink. He's married? Tsuyu asks with a raised brow, and Deku grunts. He's a bastard. Figures he's also an adulterer. It's an elite bar, Ochaka points out, and Tsuyu lights up. Oh, a chance to wear our evening gowns. Shoto scowls. Fuck, even evening suits are so uncomfortable. Yes, but we'll need to appear as esteemed gentlemen. For the sake of our job, you'll suck it up. Tenya reminds him, and Shoto's scowl turns into a pout. I'm assuming you won't be joining us, Ichika asks with a knowing grin, and Deku dares her to push it. No, I have plans. The team knows what his plans are, of course, but there's no need to point it out. Please don't tell me you're going to attempt to cook again, Tenya dismays, and Izuku gasps, insulted. Oi, it wasn't half bad. The fire alarms went off. The instructions were unclear. Izuku simply defends, and his friends laugh. Just let Katsuki cook, please, Ochako pleads softly, and Izuku huffs and crosses his arms. They continue to discuss a couple more details for tonight's mission before Deku dismisses them. His date would take place here tonight, in his private quarters, and he needed to have everything ready. He needed to clean himself up and shower, get out his suit and into something casual, prepare all the ingredients for dinner, even if he wasn't in charge of cooking. The team wasn't wrong. He was a terrible cook. In his defense, he never needed to learn. Katsuki always insisted on doing it for him. The one time he tried to surprise his boyfriend, he did almost set fire to the man's apartment. Both squads were called in when the alarm went off, and yes, neither group is prepared to let it go to this day. His phone started to buzz in his pocket. Just as he was cleaning his apartment, Izuku smiles at the incoming call as he picked it up. Oi, why the fuck ain't the password working? His loving boyfriend screams at him, forgoing any greeting. Shoto probably changed it to mess with you. Izuku simply guesses, and texts said man the new codes. Never mind, the bastards are coming out. I'll be here in 3. The call ends there, and Izuku grins. Punctual as ever, a single knock is the only warning he gets before the door to his apartment beeps open. The fuck was all that fancy-ass clothing for? The blonde questions as he toes off his combat boots and shrugs off his coats. Placing his helmet down on the ground, Izuku greets him by jumping in his arms and kissing him, ignoring the question entirely. No work talk, he mumbles into the kiss, and Katsuki pulls back with a raised brow. You really skipped a mission to be with me tonight. It's nothing important, Izuku dismisses. Katsuki doesn't seem convinced, but pulls him back into another kiss anyway, before breaking it up again, to which Izuku groans and pouts. Katsuki chuckles. Before I forget, and then we can set the no work talk rule in place. Izuku glares at the mocking tone of his very reasonable rule. All for One has funded a new operation of his. Monoma gave me the intel. He can't seem to discover where the money's going, but it looks fishy. Izuku rolls his eyes. Everything that man does is fishy, but I'll keep an eye out. Katsuki flicks him playfully, and Izuku makes a noise of complaint. But it is soon swallowed by another kiss that this time doesn't get interrupted. An elite bar in the city where it was invitation only. One needed to be vetted before you could enter such a highly esteemed establishment. These types of bars were only occupied by politicians, commission workers, and any other corrupt citizen that practically licks All for One's boot for any scrap of power that man can spare. They don't even bother to get a fake invitation and simply smoothly sneak in via other means. With their wardrobe and natural classy manners, no one questions their right to be here. Shoto scans the room the moment they enter. Girls, spread out and find him. When you do, text the code, and Tenya and I will come guard the perimeter. He softly orders, and everyone makes a sound of acknowledgement before naturally spreading out. Shoto takes a place at the bar as Tenya goes to sit in a corner booth by the musicians. Ochaka heads for a table full of men and makes sure all eyes are on her as she walks by. Yet none are the ones they need. Suyu finds him first at a table with a blonde woman who looks far too young to be his wife. Ochaka-chan, based on the woman he's talking to, you would be more his type. She softly whispers through the comms, and the brunette struts past her. No questions asked. Suyu retreats to the bar to sit beside Shoto, and they both act as if they are here together, and not keeping an eye on the table at the far back of the room. Tenya doesn't move closer since he's well hidden to shoot a bullet if something goes wrong. No matter what, they have orders. That man dies tonight. Ochako is good at following her orders, and chats the man up easily. As she does so, Suyu brings Shoto's attention towards some shady figures on the other side of the bar. On their necks, they have a tattoo that signifies the 8 bullets, Overhaul's gang. She whispers over her drink, and Shoto sneaks a look before nodding and sending a text off to Tenya to move in close on the 2 gang members instead. Might as well get some intel out of them while we're here. It's odd that they have an invitation to be here, Suyu comments, and she's right in her words. The men are not dressed up to code, and they're acting as if it's any old sleazy bar. They're Overhaul's lackeys. They likely get these perks from their boss being All for One's bitch. Shoto simply replies, and she scowls at that. He pokes her cheek to remind her to control her facial expression, and she playfully flicks his hand. I hope Zuko is having more fun than we are. She smiles, and Shoto gives her a knowing grin back and sips at his drink. I'm just kinda sad that I didn't get to enjoy him cursing at the gate more. Suyu grins. He's a dangerous man to piss off, Shoto shrugs, and she smiles knowingly. Nah, Zuku won't let him get near. The job is done when Ochako takes a single sip of the drink that the man ordered for her, as he sips his own that she poisoned when she distracted him with her foot riding up his leg under the table suggestively. He drops dead in a second after digesting it, and Ochako manages to cover it up carefully to look like he just drank himself to sleep. She stands with a sense of finality and spots the squad waiting for her at the exit, Tenya wearing a whole new worried look that doesn't ease her for the job well done. The second they are out and head back to their car, Ochako pulls the navy-haired man back a little to prod. What's with that moody look? 8 Bullet members were there. I overheard some things that are just wrong. In our line of work, nothing is pretty, Ochako reminds him, but Tenya shakes his head. But we do not involve kids. The whole group stops at that, and Shoto points the navy-haired man with a serious glare. What the fuck did you say? Those guys, they were complaining about this little girl they can't control. Mentioned that it was a neat asset from the big boss, Tenya explains simply, and Shoto's eyes darken. They all know what his family name is, who his father is, and who his older brother is. They know where he comes from, and they know to be scared of that look. A child is not a fucking asset, he grumbles and gets his phone out. Hold up, nothing good will come from interrupting the boss tonight. Sue jumps to stop him, and Shoto huffs. It's not him I'm calling. They all exchanged confused looks, but don't question him. He's second in command for a reason. The line picks up and they hold their breath. Toya, what do you know about AFO's newest asset? The doors slam open to the bar, and Tomura doesn't spare a glance at Taobi mid-tantrum. The barman, Kurigiri, pours him a drink for the incoming headache, and the Ravenet will give him, and Tomura thanks him. At the same time, Toga skips into the bar and jumps to sit on the bar stool next to Tomura. The stool twirls for a bit before she greets him with that crazed smile of her. I heard something interesting. She sing-songs, and Darby slams his hands down on the bar table. Move it, blood buns. I have something serious to talk about. Neither should be done here then, should they? Tomura then points out, and both share a look before they shove Tomura's drink away from him. Now, why would you piss me off on purpose? He snarls at them, but they don't falter. This is serious, boss. His mood only drops further when they force him into his office above the bar that consists of their hideout and base of operations. The bar is one of the many businesses they own of the kind. Darby has a side hustle drug operation, and Toga is usually in charge of keeping one of their stripper joints under control. Toga, why did you leave your post? Your shift isn't over. He reminds her, and she pouts. Spinner was kind enough to take over. The information I got was too important to wait for. Tomura scowls, but waves his hand to say, Let's hear it. Darby grumbles from the other side of the room. One of the women who came in tonight was bragging to some of the workers of how she finally got rid of her daughter. A bad mother, is that it? Darby judges from his corner, and she snarls at him. Of course not. She mentioned that she dropped the girl off at her father's because it was his turn to take responsibility and that the man paid her well off for full custody and all. When the others prodded to ask who he was, since he sounded powerful, she bragged that it was someone very high up, but that she'd signed a contract to not mention who. The only people in this town that would go as far as to pull a contract are politicians and commission members. Darby sneers at her, and she throws a knife at him in warning, clearly already fed up with his attitude. Toga, don't stab the wall. Tomura reprimands her, grumbling, or the chief of police. She bites back at Darby, and he moves to confront her physically. Oi, enough! Tomura yells at both of them, and they step back from each other. They both turn to face him, and Tomura snarls, Toga, spit it out. She mentioned his family name though, since it's not public information. Shigaraki, she huffs, and Tomura glares at Darby, glaring him to give him worse news. Overhaul is training a new asset that he received from All for One. Tomura stands up slowly, pushing back his chair menacingly across the floor. Darby, set a meeting for the other bosses. We're organizing a raid. A raid? The man repeats, and Tomura glares at him. No fucking way are we leaving a girl in their hands. She's family. Darby nods firmly and leaves the room, his phone already in hand, likely calling his brother. Tomura looks at Toga. Go back to work, and when you're off, teach that fucking mother a lesson. Toga smiles at him with glee before she skips out of the office. The next knock on his door is Kurogiri, again bringing him another drink which he downs in one gulp. Izuku groans as his phone buzzes in his pocket again, just as they were getting to the fun part of the date. They had to just finish eating the delicious meal that Katsuki cooked, and after spending their whole mealtime sending suggestive glances, they had finally cracked and given in to their wants and needs. Katsuki sucks a trail of kisses up his neck, unperturbed. Ignore it. And Izuku doesn't even have to, as it stops ringing. Until it rings again and again, to which Katsuki finally gets fed up and pulls it out of Izuku's pocket in a way that only makes Izuku harder. Katsuki doesn't pull away from their very intimate position and instead pushes his own suggestive action into Izuku in a silent promise that this isn't over. It's your brother, he snarls, and Izuku snaps out of his pleasure-addled thoughts and frowns at his phone in Katsuki's hand. Fuck, okay, just give it to me. I'll see what he wants. Katsuki glares at him and dials a number, but doesn't hand the phone over. Instead, he puts it on speaker. Ka-chan, Izuku says in a warning tone, and Katsuki shushes him. The moment the line clicks, Katsuki is the first to speak. Someone better be fucking dying, you cockblocker. Oh, don't worry, Ka-chan. Someone will. Tenko answers in a tone that chills Izuku. What do you mean? We have a sister, and the bastard is training her under overhaul. Be ready for a raid. The line goes dead with that simple admission, and both of them share a look. Sorry, baby, looks like the work rule is out the window, Katsuki tells him, kissing his temple, and Izuku pouts. Sho and Kiri can handle it for now, though, Izuku whines, and Katsuki raises a brow before grinning. You fucking little minx. Katsuki turns Izuku's phone to silent as he reaches for his own and makes a call. Kiri, Shigaraki's planning a raid, so be collaborative. Pass the order on to Deku's second. With those final orders of the night, he turns his own phone onto silent mode and finally ravishes his nerd. Even though they both know this situation will stay on Izuku's mind for the following days to come, Katsuki can try and bring his boyfriend just a single moment of peace. Chapter 3. Now, I ain't ever been with a baddie. Izuku allows the doors to swing open as he enters the room. Two pairs of red eyes immediately lock onto him. Kirishima and Shoto had decided with Tomura and Monoma that Dynamite would be hosting the meeting. Katsuki and Izuku had only learned of this morning when they turned their phones on again and rushed to the meeting separately to uphold their stature as respective mob bosses. Naturally, Izuku had made it just on time, with the confidence of someone who arrived 10 minutes early. Tomura had already been waiting with his legs up on the table across the door. Katsuki, of course, sat at the head of the table, as is done to maintain his power in his territory, regardless of the other bosses in the room. Each man came without an entourage. Instead, their right-hand man waited outside in case they were needed at a moment's notice. The door swings open once again to welcome the last mob boss. Monoma has a knack for making an entrance, and always makes sure he is fashionably late. My apologies. It seems we took a wrong turn somewhere. The asshole bows in mock apology, and Katsuki scoffs as much. Izuku had taken a seat across from his brother, both seated 3 seats down from Katsuki. Monoma reads the room for a moment before deciding to test his luck and sits across from Katsuki on the other end of the table with a smug look on his face. It seems fitting that business partners sit at the same level. The blonde explains himself, and Katsuki doesn't take the bait, chooses to ignore the insolence instead. Izuku has to hold himself back from letting his pride show. Shigaraki, you called this meeting. You get to explain what we're doing here. Katsuki starts off, relaxing back into his chair and putting his feet up across the table. Tomura sends a tired glance Monoma's way and grumbles before straightening himself in his chair and clearing his throat. My men have received intel that All For One has recently acquired a new asset. Allegedly, she is the mayor's daughter, dropped off at his doorstep by the mother who demanded it was his responsibility now. So, the man has another bastard child. Why does it affect us? Monoma shrugs, and Tomura glares at him. Because Overhaul has her now and is training her to be All For One's next successor. We all know the horror stories of his last successor. It won't be good for any of us if she gets on the streets. Izuku adds to that, pointedly ignoring his brother, to which these specific rumors belong. Monoma nods in understanding. So, it will affect us. What I don't get is how it will affect you. Monoma points specifically at Tomura, and the man grumbles. My reasons won't affect you. I can assure you that. Monoma looks at him distrustingly, but ultimately shrugs and leans back into his chair. Katsuki claps sarcastically. Well, just great. Now, is there a fucking plan or what? Monma grins smugly, and Izuku glares at the spiky blonde. Strategies don't just get coughed up, Bakugo. Katsuki glares back. Then start thinking, you damn nerds. Monoma laughs from his seat, and both send him a warning glare and flip him off in unison. Fuck off! Don't come at me, Grump. All I know how to do is steal for a living. They don't call me the Phantom Thief for nothing. He says that so simply, as if they don't know that he only thieves from crooks under All for One's heel to give back to his part of the city. That is how he gained loyalty from the neighborhoods on his territory. For what he stole for them, he gets a percentage back of their income. He's also well known for having no mercy when it comes to stealing lives. A silent killer with a dramatic flair. Monoma's right. Though with your talents, we need weapons and gear. If we're raiding an 8-bullet space, we need a lot of ammo. Deku starts thinking out loud. The slicked blonde sits up straight at his words. That I can do, though I will need numbers and preferences. Deku smiles at him. Once we have where and when, I'll give you that information. That brings us to find the where, Tomura leads, and Deku nods. We'll need to scout out that information. I'll send Dun's face and Pinky, Katsuki offers, and Deku grins. Ochako and Tsuyu will join them. I have a contact that might know something. Then why don't you go after it? Because I have some other lead in mind. Deku simply defends, and Katsuki seems intrigued. Tomura clears his throat. Good. I'll have my team work on hunting down some known NPCs. They can be our entry point once we know where to hit. It might be smarter to have them keep an eye on Overhaul's whereabouts. He is the one training her. His movements might make all that difference. Deku suggests instead, and Tomura frowns but otherwise nods. Monoma watches them curiously, and Deku meets his eye. Anything else? The man waves his hand, and Katsuki grunts. Fucking finally! Dismissed! Now get out! Monoma stands and bows mockingly again. Deku, we'll be in contact. When he stands up again, he grins and opens the doors wide. Shinzo, we're done here, he announces to his right-hand man, and the purple-haired man looks back inside the 3 bosses behind. Deku winks at him, and the man keeps his expression cooled, but Deku knows better. The man leaves behind Monoma without looking back. Tomura is next to leave, and Darby is waiting for him by the door, stuck in a thrilling conversation with his brother about getting some tattoos like the one Darby sports on his arms, hands, and neck. Darby, not everyone feels the need to decorate themselves like a canvas, Tomura reminds him as they leave, and Darby grins. Think about it, Sho. You could do cool things with a fire and ice. If you change your mind, I know a great guy. He calls back, and Shoto waves his brother off. When it's only the 4 of them, Shoto looks back into the room, Kirishima doing the same, yet they seem to read the room rather differently, with the way the redhead face starts to pale. Let's go for a drink, man. I think we really should get our orders first before they start fighting it out, Shoto protests, and Kirishima doesn't seem to agree. Doesn't mean it has to be us. The rest of your team includes big-mouthed dimwits, Shoto deadpans, and Kirishima face blanks before he ultimately clears his throat and goes into the room. Boss, what's the order? Deku moves the stand to leave, but with the movement, Katsuki rises too. Where the fuck do you think you're going? Home. I've got a lead to track. You're not going anywhere. I'm not done with you. I'm not one of your subordinates. I go as I please. Kirishima winces at Katsuki's reaction, and Shoto covers his mouth quickly before the couple remembers that they are in a room. Fine, wink your way across the city, like I care. The room goes quiet for a moment before Izuku bursts out laughing. Kirishima tenses, and to be honest, Shoto can feel the room start to freeze from the tension rising in Katsuki's posture. You're so cute when you're jealous, Ka-chan, Izuku tells him softly, and Shoto and Kirishima get the memo, slowly backing out of the room. Sho, tell Mina, Denki, Ochaka, and Tsuyu to get some info regarding Overhaul's bases at the Grapevine. Izuku suddenly addresses them, and Shoto turns to acknowledge the order. The strip club? Katsuki scoffs, and Izuku rolls his eyes before turning back to face Shoto. Tell Denki to keep an eye on the girls. The owner of the club is handsy, and I don't want to hear anything about a bloodbath. Kirishima scoffs, and Izuku grins. Jealousy must be a Dynamite member trait, then. Shoto looks between the members in the room and frowns. If this is what jealousy does to someone, I really hope you haven't just pissed Monoma off. Izuku waves him off. Nah, Toshi and I simply have a common understanding having to deal with dramatic blondes. Katsuki does a double take at the words, and Izuku laughs again. Kirishima crosses his arms over his chest. I should go too. Give them extra backup. No, Gandu, you're not Mineta's type. He likes twinks or girls. You don't fit either category. Izuku tells him, and Kirishima huffs. I don't like the implications here, Katsuki grumbles, and Izuku grins. It goes with the job. Get over it. Shoto shares a look with Kirishima. I'll take that drink now. Ochaka looked like a pouting toddler when they got back. I don't want to go to Grapevine, she whined, and Deku sighed as he sat down at his desk. He gave her a look over. You better not dress like that. Her pout got worse, and Deku had to keep his amusement at bay. She practically dressed like a nun. I am not showing a slither of skin for that creep, she protests, and Deku laughs this time. Ochako, between all of us, you resemble me best in stature. You need to dress up a little for him to be cooperative. That doesn't mean you have to do anything else. Her face morphs into disgust at the implications. Oh God. That's why I didn't reject Katsuki's offer to send Denki. Denki's just as much of a creep, she yells back, and Deku glares at her, fed up. Now that's just insulting. I would never touch a fair young maiden without permission. Denki clicks his tongue from where he's suddenly leaning against the doorframe. If he's here, then Katsuki won't be much further behind. Deku sighs before turning his face back to Ochako. Nevertheless, the freedom of a little girl is on the line. Just play nice. She grumbles under her breath and curses him out, but Deku chooses to act as if he didn't hear anything as he looks the Dynamite members up and down. See? Denki's dressed appropriately, Deku tells her, and Denki grins. Well, yeah, I've been there before. Ochaka growls. Of course you have. We getting this show on the road? Mina suddenly asks, jumping behind Denki as Tsuyu comes up next to them. She snorts when she sees Ochako. Why do you look like a nun? Nah, girl, that won't do. Now you look like you've got the weapon strapped to you, Mina tuts, and Ochako glares at her inquisitively. How did you manage to hide weapons on a dress like that? Deku looks the girl over and honestly asks himself the same question. She's wearing a strapless crop top and jeans. Mina grins. A girl has her ways. With Mina in charge, it didn't take much longer for Chaco to be ready. They left looking like the embodiment of look but not touch. With them to their mission, it was time for Izuku to get with his. You look like a teen criminal, Shoto tells it to him straight as Izuku pulls the hood over. Well, as long as I don't look like a mob boss. I saw the girls leave. You're gonna tell me how you dress when you see that asshole? Katsuki grumbles, and Izuku swings around to spot him at the gate, looking rather smug. Just my suit. The guy has a thing for powerful guys in suits. A gun to their head usually reminds him to keep his hands to himself. Katsuki grins, entirely assured. Did you tell them that? Izuku shrugs. They'll figure it out. Katsuki takes a look at what Izuku's wearing and narrows his eyes. You're going to Aizawa? Izuku frowns. You're not coming. Watch me. Katsuki challenges him, and Izuku glares at his boyfriend in his suit. Katsuki, you look too conspicuous. Yeah, and you need a ride, he grumbles as he goes to get on his bike and hands Izuku the helmet. Stop being stubborn and get on. Izuku looks back at Shoto with pleading eyes, and the man shrugs. He's your problem, not mine. What did you tell Ochako? The freedom of a little girl is on the line? Izuku flips him off, but takes the damn helmet as Katsuki chuckles as he starts the engine. Luckily enough, Izuku didn't have to fight him about not dropping him off by the bike near the alley behind the station. The man happily left his bike far away, hidden from the feds. He also changed into a hoodie and his leather jacket so he would look less suspicious as they waited out in the alley, against the wall for the detective to come out. You know you're gonna have to tell Auntie where all these stray siblings are coming from eventually. Katsuki tells him as he picks at some dirt under his nails, and Izuku shrugs. I'll cross that bridge when we come to it. Katsuki walks over to him and cages him between his arms. We'll cross that bridge, he reminds the brunette, and Izuku gives him a soft smile, before leaning up to give him a kiss. Stop thinking you're all alone in this, Katsuki whispers into the kiss, and Izuku hums a soft apology. Keep your tired indecency away from these streets, a tired voice calls out to them, followed by a click of a lighter and the smell of a cigarette. Izuku turns his head to the origin of the voice. Aizawa, you cold broccoli head, what do you need? He asks after he takes a puff of his cigarette. Izuku detangles himself from the blonde and faces the detective on, but doesn't move closer. A girl's identity. Her mother is Konishi Yumiko. The man takes another puff before sighing. What's happening? We're going to save a little girl, Izuku says simply. Not really in the saving business though, are you? He states, and Katsuki scoffs. What we're in the business of or not is none of your fucking business. Aizawa raises a brow at the angry blonde before turning back to Izuku. I'll send it to you by the end of the night. Izuku bows his head in thanks. We'll keep you up to date when it becomes irrelevant, Izuku promises, and the man huffs. Gee, thanks. Izuku grins. At least try to pretend you don't want to know all the illegal things we get up to. Don't you want to be able to sleep better at night? Aizawa flicks his cigarette in their general direction. Okay, that's enough, you little shits. It's a pleasure doing business with you, Izuku tells him, before shrugging his hood back up and turning away to go back through the streets to the bike. Katsuki following right by his side, all three men unaware of the bright green eyes that had just been watching them through the entire interaction. The girls gag in unison as they arrive at the entrance of the club. The hallway entrance smelling of piss and other liquid substances that would make anyone hurl. Denki rubs at his neck sheepishly as his phone pings with a new notification. Oh, please let that be Deku who said he got that info somewhere else. Sue pleads, and Denki shakes his head. Not quite. Deku, 11:58 p.m. I sent a message ahead of time. He's got the info. Just play along with what he wants. The girls know their limits. Roger that. Sue reads over his shoulder and seems to relax somewhat. The girls react to that and mirror her. Denki pockets his phone with nervousness and the girls follow him inside. Every man in the room turns to them when they finally enter the purple lit up room, and soon enough it's clear that whatever stripper this bar usually has are not here tonight. Instead, the bar turns to the three girls looking disgusted behind the blonde. Deku sent a text up front. He must have cleared out the bar for us. Sue whispers to Mina and Ochako. Mina huffs. Good. At least he doesn't underestimate us. I don't think that's why, Ochako tells her as men start to come up to them looking very happy at what they see. Piss off. Don't even think you can come near me. Mina hisses at the pair of men that come to talk her up, blocking their faces with her hand. Take a chill pill, woman. Have a drink. Another man tells them, and Denki can see the ticking time bomb that Mina's becoming, so he steers the three of them towards the bar. Not a bad idea, thanks man, Denki calls back, and the other man huffs and leaves. Don't blow up until we have what we need, Denki warns her, and she huffs, but lights up when a drink is placed in front of her by Ochako with a smile. Liquid courage? Mina smiles back. Cheers to that! The girls clink their drinks together and Denki orders his own to sip as he scans the room for the man they need. By Deku's description, they're looking for a small man with purple hair and an ego whose aura fills the room. Even with the amount of toxic testosterone filling the room, no one fits that description. Now I better hope you are coming to ask about my day and not trying to slip something in my drink, or we are gonna have issues. Ochako snaps at some guy just as Denki finally spots their target. Okay, you can snap now, he tells her, and she does, throwing her drink at a said man who attempted to spike her, and he stumbles for a moment before snarling at her in full rage. Oh, don't do that. These aren't just some pretty girls. A smug voice warns the man, and the crowd parts for a man wearing a purple suit tailored to his small body, with a zebra-printed cloak draped over his shoulder, releasing a intimidating but perverse power from his small stature. Mineta. Oh shit, here we go. Denki mumbles under his breath and puts his drink down on the nearest table, abandoning it. The short man looks all three girls out slowly. They all fight to gag at his sticky eyes. Well, you don't look calm, he comments in an implicating tone as he swirls his drink. Denki jumps in to de-escalate when he sees Mina reach for something. "Now, about that info, man," he reminds the thug sheepishly. Mineta gives them a chance over as he looks above his sunglasses before looking back at the girls. "I prefer Midoriya, but you guys will do just nicely." The girl's eyes visibly darken. "I say we sell him out to Cats and be on our way once we get the info," Mina whispers, and Ochako and Tsuyu nod. "Yeah, I second that." Denki rubs his neck sheepishly as Mineta seems to be making plans behind those shiny purple eyes. "Let's take this to a private room," he grins, and for once, all three girls grin back. The moment the door to the private room closes with the criminal's bodyguards outside, 3 pairs of guns click and are pointed at his head in an instant. "You were right in the first thing you said. We're not just pretty girls," Tsuyu tells him, and Mineta visibly gulps. Denki simply sits down, relaxed for the first time this afternoon. "So, about that info," he asks again, and Mineta seems to shrink in size, understanding that he is not as big as he thought he was. He scowls and grumbles, but rightens himself in his seat, regardless of the 3 guns pointed at him. Yeah, Overall has a girl in his main home base." The purple squirt spits out, and the girls react at that, eyes widening in understanding. The man has taken the girl under his wing in the most well-defended fortress he has. He had her in a separate base at first, but his men couldn't control her, so he is taken to training her personally. "Shit," Denki curses, and Tsuyu hums in agreement. Mineta huffs. "I gave you the info. I would like my payment now." Tsuyu gives Denki a side glance. "Did Deku mention a payment?" Denki makes a show of thinking about it. "No, not that I recall." "That's because we usually settle the payment after. The payment depends on how good the info was to him," Mineta barks back, and Mina grins wide, mischievous thoughts dancing in her eyes. "Oh well, in that case..." "Hold up. This is Deku's informant, not Bakugo's," Ochako reminds her, and Mina clicks her tongue, looking away. Denki sends a message over to Deku in update, and the response was him smiling. "Deku's offering a kiss in trade," he says to the room, and Mineta lights up while the girls all turn to Denki in utter shock. Denki stands to pocket his phone and goes to lean over to Mineta. "Does that feel equal to you?" Denki whispers, and the short man happily nods in agreement. Looking behind Denki to take a pic of the litter, Denki grins and turns the man's chin a little more, only to give the man a peck on the cheek. "All paid for." With that, he stands smugly as the realization strikes the bastard. "Oi! That is not what we agreed on." Denki raises a brow. "Oh? We never specified who would be giving the kiss." He grins again as the small man boils in anger, but seems to remind himself when a 4th gun clicks in the room. Mineta falls back to escape Denki's gun. "Nice doing business with you." Izuku's phone pings again with a message of confirmation. The deal went through. He smiles to himself as he pockets the phone, and Katsuki clicks his tongue. Izuku coos and kisses his boyfriend's cheek sweetly, to which Katsuki pushes him to the nearest wall and gives him a real kiss. "Don't start something you're not willing to finish," Katsuki tells him in a rough voice that has Izuku feeling weak in the knees. "Not here," he whispers back, breathless, and Katsuki grins knowingly as he nips at Izuku's neck. Then let's hurry up and go home. Minato peed his pants, if that makes you feel better, Izuku offers, when Katsuki pushes back from the wall with an arm wrapped around Izuku's shoulder. They are recently disguised in casual clothing. They can relax their attitudes somewhat, blending in with the dark streets. "What's your deal with that guy anyway?" Katsuki asks unhappily. He's got a knack for being in places where he shouldn't be and learns useful things that way. The only downside is that he's a nasty pervert that needs a reminder to keep his hands to himself. Izuku adds the last part with a disgusted face, and can see ideas forming in Katsuki's mind at that alone. Izuku smiles at him gratefully. "Don't worry, I've beaten him up enough times that he knows better. The girls, I'm sure, gave him a general reminder." Katsuki kisses his temple and smiles proudly. "That's my nerd." A deep cough ruins the moment, and they halt mid-step to spot a blonde officer in uniform. Someone that seems to be rather high-ranked by what Izuku can spot on his uniform alone. "Gentlemen, how fortunate I ran into you," he greets them politely before his eyes darken. They both tense up immediately at the threat. "Let's have a chat down at the station." Izuku spares a glance to Katsuki, who does the same before they both look back at the police officer. "Can't do that." They set off running a second later. Izuku heaves a breath when he gets to the motorcycle. They split up, running to raise their chances of losing him, and eventually Izuku ends up climbing a fire escape and ran the rest on the roof. "We're good. I lost him 3 blocks back," Katsuki reassures him as he hands him a helmet. Izuku holds up his hands and heaves one more breath before taking the helmet. "Let's hurry up before he doubles back." Katsuki grins. "What's got you so out of breath?" "Was running on the roofs," Izuku answers between breaths, and Katsuki slaps his own helmet cover head down. "Dumbass reckless nerd," he grumbles. Izuku chuckles. "Hold it right there," the officer calls out again, both of them cursing as they jump onto the motorcycle and rev the engines. "Fucking hell, hold tight!" Katsuki orders him before shooting down the alley at top speed, losing the blonde officer where he stands. "Get back here!" the man calls back to them, and Izuku flips them off before they turn into the road and disappear. Katsuki grumbles as he pulls his helmet off and starts to zip off his leathers. They'd gotten a text halfway home that Kirishima had passed on the information that Denki and the girls learnt to the other mob bosses, and that the men were coming back to Dynamite Space to reconvene. Luckily for them, Monoma is already waiting inside, having a riveting conversation with Tomura. Both turn to look at them when they arrive. "Speak of the devil," Monoma says with a smug tone, and Tomura rolls his eyes. "You always have a knack for arriving together." Izuku glares at the platinum blonde before Katsuki steps in. "Piss off. I hope you didn't come back to my house just to gossip." He huffs as he sits down at his seat, and Izuku doesn't get to choose as Katsuki kicks a chair open for Izuku to sit on. Clearly, the blonde is reaching the limit of his patience. "If it's overall his personal home base you're raiding, I'll give you all the firepower I can muster. Though, I really do suggest you stake it out before you go guns blazing." Monoma adds the last part only to Deku. "I would never go in blind." Deku agrees, and Monoma grins. "Good." Deku didn't miss how Monoma didn't offer his own men against the 8 bullets, but he let it slide. The man never implied that he would help any further than supply the ammos. If we're sending out a stake team, I can offer up Toga. She may be a wild card, but she is a master of disguise. Ochako is a pretty good sniper shot. If she needs backup, Deku offers, but Tomura nods in thanks. Katsuki looks between the brothers and huffs. Great, is that it? The whole room turns to him in confusion, and Monoma gives Deku a look as if asking for a translation. Don't look at him, he's not going to help you. Katsuki sneers, and Monoma chuckles uncomfortably. Tomura clears his throat. Then we'll get the girls to coordinate. Deku nods. Monoma, I'll give you Ida's contact information. He'll coordinate it with you when the gear is ready. Zero will handle it on my end. Katsuki offers and Monoma frowns. Great. Zero is known around the parts to be rough. With that, a silence follows, and it is clear that it is all they would be getting for the night. Fucking fantastic. Now get out. Katsuki growls, and Monoma chuckles half-heartedly, but makes a move to stand. Tomura just smiles as he stands as well. We'll keep in touch. Monoma bows in his dramatic way, and Deku gives the man a single nod. The door slams shut, and Izuku turns to grab Katsuki's wrist, effectively calming him in a second. Katsuki lets his hands be guided to holding his Zuku's cheeks. Planning raids are tricky business, Kachan, with a lot of moving parts, and it takes a lot of coordination, Izuku tells him softly, and Katsuki huffs and pulls the brunette closer to kiss him softly. No more work talk. We're in your office, Izuku points out in a whisper, and Katsuki kisses him again, before pulling away to pinch his cheeks. Monoma is catching on to us. Monoma already knows. He's just playing games because we don't let it show publicly. Izuku rolls his eyes, and Katsuki backs away slowly. Huh? Izuku smiles sheepishly, and Katsuki raises a brow. How did he find out? Hitoshi made some prodding remarks. I got defensive, and it made it clear that Kachan was already taken. Izuku pouts, and Katsuki bursts out laughing, to which Izuku's pout deepens. Who's jealous now, nerd? Izuku frowns. I don't need to be. Kachan is mine. Katsuki smiles and pulls Izuku closer again by a pinch of his cheek. Yeah, I am. Now, let's finish planning this raid, Izuku tells him, determined, and Katsuki chuckles. Let's go save your sister. Eri. Chapter 4. Bitch, what you mean you ain't fucking with this shit? A notification pings through the office as a new email is announced on his laptop. Katsuki sits up from where he had been lounging on the sofa, going through sheets of blueprints of Overhaul's home base. That better be Aizawa, he grumbles, and Izuku grins. Yep, he sent over her file. Katsuki stands and walks over, just as Izuku downloads the file and opens it up. Scooch, Katsuki orders him, and Izuku doesn't react until he's literally lifted off his chair. Hey, he protests as Katsuki then sits down in his chair and pulls Izuku onto his lap. Sharing is caring, nerd. Now show me what you got. You could have just sat on the desk. Izuku yells at him, and Katsuki rolls his eyes and flicks his forehead. No. Izuku slaps Katsuki's hand away as it reaches for his laptop, and Katsuki chuckles, kissing his head. "Why can't you be professional?" Izuku grumbles, and Katsuki just lets his head fall on Izuku's shoulder. Konishi Eri, aged 7. Description: pale grey hair, red eyes, pale skin, 110 centimeters. The file was a short one. She was only a child, of course, and the authorities have not been made aware of the parental switch. It would not be in All for One's business to do that, and a woman clearly doesn't care for her daughter enough to do so either. "Well, at least we have a description," Katsuki comments, and Izuku hums, taking a screenshot of the file and sending it separately to Ochako and Tomura alike. His brother will pass it on to Toga, and Izuku should get her contact details back to give to Ochako. They'll work it out together from there. A knock interrupts them, but Katsuki doesn't move an inch from where he's seated and holds onto Deku so that the green net doesn't get any ideas of moving either. Tenya comes in with full confidence, only for his face to drop and his hand to go pinch at the bridge of his nose. "Bakugo Katsuki, a pleasure." Katsuki grins at the uptight navy-haired man, and Deku blushes deeply from the situation, but tries to get back to business. "Tenya, what can I help you with?" Tenya looks anywhere but where his boss is seated on their rival's lap. Monoma's weapon stash has arrived. It is fortunate that Bakugo is here, since Monoma felt lazily and ordered his dog Tetsu to say that we could pass on dynamite supply. In the arrogant blonde's defense, he is clearly not wrong, Izuku thinks, as he smiles at his friend. "Yeah, I'll text Sero to come pick it up, glasses," Katsuki answers, and Izuku winces internally as he sees a vein pop in Tenya's forehead. "I am not doing anything with him." Katsuki raises a brow at that, and then looks at Izuku for understanding. "Just fight it out with Suyu," he offers instead, and Tenya lights up and runs to do with just that. "What's everyone got against Sero?" Katsuki frowns, and Izuku shrugs. "Beats me." The next knock on the door is of the man in question, followed by a panting out breath of Tenya in distress. In the meantime, Katsuki rolled into his own chair beside Izuku, after Izuku claimed the seat back when the blonde had used the toilet. "Please, don't make me work with him. I can't stand him." Izuku side glances towards said man sitting on the couch, looking smug. "Oh, that's so mean. You don't even know me." Tenya glares at him and crosses his arms over his chest. "I know enough. You keep littering your cigarette butts all over our grounds." Sero shrugs. "That's 'cause the boss won't let me smoke on our grounds." "Then quit smoking. That is not my issue," Tenya retorts back, and Sero looks like he has something more to say, but gets beat to it. "Shut up. Suck it up or fight it out, but do your jobs first," Katsuki snaps, and Tenya growls. "I don't take orders from you. You can sit there all you want, but this is our base, and you are a guest. Control your dog." Izuku grins to himself in pride. "Tenya, do your job." At that order, Tenya pouts, but ultimately straightens himself and accepts it, dragging Sero out with him by the collar. Izuku cackles when the door closes. a ping from his phone with a contact attached. Deku's eyes darken in understanding as he forwards it to Ochako. She comes into the office 10 minutes later, decked in her sniper gear. "I've got the coordinates. Toga's meeting me there." She briefs him, and Deku nods. "Send me updates as we go. As soon as we have our weapons allocated, we'll be ready to give you backup at a moment's notice." Ochako nods. "Toga said that the League's spinner and compress will be on standby in case we need immediate backup." Deku nods again. "Be safe." Ochako smiles at him softly, then turns to look Katsuki in the eye. "Make sure to back him up. Don't let him go." Izuku takes that personally, but Katsuki just nods firmly in a silent promise. Ochako hears someone skipping towards her from behind, but lets her guard down when she sees the reflection of the person in a passing window. A master of disguise, skipping down the road. Yeah, great skills at keeping a low profile. "Ah, that's the art of it. My skirt bounces with me. No one pays attention to my face at that rate." Toga defends herself before stopping in front of Ochako, right at the point they needed Ochako to have a defensive hidden point to the building. Toga holds her hands out. "Toga Himiko." Ochako takes it, offering her own identity. "Uraka Ochako." "Oh, I'll call you Ocha-chan from now on, okay?" Ochako looks at her, and one look at that smile tells her that even if she wasn't okay with it, it would matter to her. "Then I'll call you Himi-chan." Ochako replies, and the woman brightens up at that. "We're gonna get along great." They get to the highest point that they can, and Ochako sets up her gear, pinning it to the room Deku and Katsuki figured is where Overhaul might be keeping the girl. There is a connecting training room and a bathroom for easy access, so she wouldn't have any room to maneuver throughout the rest of the base. She's only 6. How much trouble could she really be? Ochako grumbles as she looks through her scope on a sniper. "I was already a handful for my parents at the age of 4. Imagine a little girl who's literally been delivered to some strange man only for him to ship her off to a gangster who says he'll train her to be a killer. It's no longer the rainbows and unicorn world she thought it was." Himiko replies softly, and Ochako turns her head a little to take the woman in. She has her hair in a plaited bun, a black cardigan, and a uniform skirt. "We'll get her out," Ochako reassures, and Himiko hums. "If you're really good, I'll try and get in closer and keep an eye from there." "Okay, send me a signal when you need to take a shot or if you see an opening." Ochako agrees, and the woman hums again and skips away. Staking out is hard work and long hours of simply watching through a scope, waiting for a single opening. Himiko is staking out on the ground nearby, and everyone else is waiting on a signal from either one of them to strike. Ochako's phone rings, and she takes it out of her pocket blindly, not even blinking. "Yeah?" "Motivation, motivation, motivation," Mina sings through the phone, and Ochako shakes her head with a smile. "Heard you were staking it out, so thought I'd wish you some luck." "Thanks. Gotta stay focused though." "Right. Keep up the motivation." Mina hangs up the call then, and Ochako chuckles to herself as she pockets her phone again only for something to catch her eye. Overhaul. Her phone rings again. Himiko? Yeah, it's me. Overhaul is leaving the base with 2 of his top men. From what I can gather, he's going back to report to his master. Okay, I have my eye on the girl. She's locked up in her bedroom, and there's guards posted on every door. 2 to the connecting training room, 2 more to the connecting bathroom. Could your boss's team take them? Yeah, Deku can do it. I'll send the signal now. I'll follow Overhaul. The call ends. The signal is quick to send. She has no time to waste calling him. She has to keep an eye on the target for every second now. Each blink she takes now could mean success or failure. It was clear that Tenya and Sarah were done when Tenya came back in with his suit jacket around his waist and looking exhausted. I'm taking a break. Where is Ochako? Izuku grins up from the book he was reading. She's on a stakeout. Are you missing your girlfriend? Is that what's got you all moody? Sarah mocks him, and Tenya groans. I worked with him. I did my job. Now get him out. Tenya pleads in a neutral tone, and Izuku smiles. Sarah raises a brow when he notices the lack of his own boss in the room. Where's Katz? He had to go change the plates on his bikes. Izuku shrugs. He didn't really question his boyfriend further. Sarah pats Tenya on the back, turns around to leave the office. "Kay, I'll go help the boss out. See you later, Deku." The signal ping echoes throughout the room as everyone stops dead in their movements. Tenya and Deku share a single look before the man chucks his jacket on the ground and leaves the office to go to their gear room. Deku follows immediately, strapping his knives to their holders. "Sero, tell Katsuki that we need to move. He has the coordinates. He'll know where I'll be." Suyu is quick to get the memo and is already in the gear room suiting up as Deku and Tenya strap on their bulletproof vests and as many guns as they can. Suyu even straps on Deku's signature baseball bat. "Didn't Ochako tell Katsuki not to let you go alone?" she brings up, and Deku shrugs. "Yeah, well, we're not waiting, so he'll have to just catch up, or we'll do it alone." Shoto enters the room and gets his own stuff before strapping on a helmet. The bikes are ready. "At least call Shigaraki and get backup from him," Sue calls out as Deku leaves the room. "He's got members already ready to give backup on the scene," Deku tells her as he straps his helmet on before jumping onto his own bike and revving it up. "Move out." The sound of the 3 more bikes revving is all the confirmation he needs. Ochako spots the team when they access the roofs and make for an entry point. She tells them as much through the call that Suyu set up the moment they were off their bikes. "Why can't I spot an obnoxious blonde in orange?" Ochako hisses when she can't seem to find Katsuki or any of his teammates among them. "That's 'cause he didn't come out with us," Suyu reports back quietly, and Ochako curses. That motherfucking blonde had one job, making sure Deku wouldn't do anything reckless. "Tell him to hold back. You can't just go in with the 4 of you," Ochako hisses, and Suyu clicks her tongue. "You try telling him that. You know how he gets." A buzz of her phone makes her sigh in relief as she sees 2 more moving figures on the map. "Thank you, Mina. Zero and Kaminari are following you guys. Tell him to at least wait on them." "Okay, he's willing to do that," Begrudgingly, Sue reports back. Good enough. Ochako sighs. Another breath of relief hits her when she spots 2 orange-colored members on the rooftop. We're going in. Roger that. I'm covering you. Ochako's eyes stay right on that room and only zooms in on the girl when the men guarding her room go to confront the team coming in. She makes sure to continue keeping an eye out on other entry points, but Himiko already assured her that she has her eyes on Overhaul and that he is not moving any time in the half hour, which gives them plenty of time. The little girl covers her ears when gunshots start going off. Ochako guesses by this time Deku has given up on his gun and is going into close combat with his bat and knives. He likes the sound of crushing bone, apparently. Ochako only hears the commotion through the phone line, still open with Suyu. The sounds don't travel up to a distance from outside. Guys, I found something! Kirishima seems to call to the group, and Ochako diverts her scope to find Dynamite members a floor below, going through Overhaul's office. It's 2 duffels of cash. Hold on, there's a note. Take it or leave it, but decide quickly, and get back to the mission. Ochako spits into the call, and Sugi delivers it. Ochako makes Sero and Kirishima decide to leave the cash, but to take the note attached. You took all the members out. No one else is coming to get the girl, Ochako reports, and Suyu informs the team. Deku's on it, she replies back, and Ochako follows her boss through the hallway down to the girl's room. They did it, she sighs in relief and chuckles, trusting her boss to have it from here and zooming back out to keep a lookout of their surroundings. Deku took some deep breaths as he finally walked down the hall and beat the last guard bloody. He could feel his rage simmer under his skin, but he let it all settle and calm when he finally reached the door he needed. He knocked quietly before reaching for all the locks. Eri seemed hesitant when he opened the door. Deku made sure to remember to leave his bloody bat outside so that he wouldn't scare her. She looked up at him with teary red eyes, and Izuku immediately felt protective. Who are you? She asked softly but not scared. An angel, he told her, and her eyes glistened. It was easier to say he was a guardian of good than to explain this grey space that he defines himself in. Eri understood though. She was saved. Deku kneeled down to be at her eye level. My friends and I are going to get you out of here. Will you be brave for me and cover your eyes? She nods hesitantly and closes her eyes, and even doubles to cover them with her hand. No matter what, don't open your eyes until I tell you, okay? She makes a sound of agreement, and with that, Deku picks her up in his arms and joins his team. Suyu, Shota, and Tenya go quiet when they spot the girl in his arms, restrapping their weapons to themselves quietly as Suyu takes Deku's bat in her own hands. We need to leave. Toga informed Ochako that Overhaul is coming back. Deku kept Eri on the front of his bike, helmet on and wearing some thicker clothes than the plain one-piece suit that looked similar to a prisoner's jumpsuit. They met no resistance going back to the base. Ochako joined them on the road back with assurance that Tomura's members had been brought up to date, as have the Dynamite members. Kirishima and Sero left a while before they did. With the information they found in Overhaul's office, Deku knows without a doubt that their boss will be waiting for him when they arrive. Pissed, no doubt. However, he didn't expect Katsuki to be waiting in the garage as they got off their bikes. Ochako scanned the tension in the room and moved to take Eri. "Come on, sweetheart, let's get you cleaned up," she coos, but Eri won't let Deku go. No, I want to stay with Mr. Angel." "Angel?" Tsuyu snorts, and Deku pouts. Katsuki, though, isn't as amused and looks at the little girl with all seriousness. "Well, Angel and I need to have a chat, little girl." At that, Eri frowns. "No, fuck you." She spits at him, and the room goes entirely silent before Tsuyu and Ochako bursts out laughing. "Eri has spoken, Katsuki. I'll stay with her till she's accommodated, and then we can talk." Izuku decides sheepishly, and Katsuki scowls. "Fine, I'll be in your office." The blonde walks away in a huff as he stomps, and Shoto frowns watching him go. "We can just kick him out. He has no business being pissed." "Nuh-uh. He has all the rights to be pissed," Ochako objects, and Deku sighs. "I'm kinda pissed too. I told you not to go without him," she adds, and Deku looks away and down at the girl who fell asleep in his arms, likely exhausted from all the excitement. "Yeah, well, I was in a hurry to save her," he huffs, and no one presses him any more on that. Izuku can spot Tomura's eyes in her, the eyes he inherited from their father. Izuku was fortunate on that front, that he inherited all his genes from his mother, aside from his temper. He settled into the room next door to his living quarters, a small room that has connecting doors to Tsuyu and Ochako on either side. Izuku thought it would be best for her to be connected to the woman instead of him, though he is only at the end of the hall, so not that far away either. Once he settled her in, he returned to his own room to change out of his bloodied clothes, only to find Katsuki waiting for him on his couch. "I thought you were gonna wait in the office." Izuku stays dumbfounded, and Katsuki sighs into his hands before leaning back into the cushions. "Yeah, until I thought this might get personal and wouldn't want anyone to walk in on us." Izuku hangs his head. "Okay, but we'll have to control the volume. Ares is sleeping down the hall." Katsuki looks at him carefully. "Is she okay?" he asks first, and Izuku nods, allowing this small moment of reprieve to take his jacket off. Katsuki watches as the blood-splattered garment comes off. "I take it you used the bat?" he stated, and Izuku shrugs. "Yeah." "Tell me you were careful and didn't just go in swinging." Izuku huffs. "No, Ochako insisted we wait on Kiri and Sero." Katsuki visibly relaxes somewhat before his face scowls again. "Then what the fuck were you thinking just heading out without me?" he yells, standing up, and Izuku scowls. "We got the signal. You weren't there, and I wasn't going to wait with her safety on the line. Tomura's members were in the area. We had backup if we needed it. It was fine." "I was right next door. A simple call away. If he had bothered to fucking do that. Katsuki yelled right back, and Izuku scoffs. I had Sero go get you. Yeah, and thank fucking God he didn't actually leave and called me instead. I was the one that ordered him to follow you immediately. He had the right mind to call Kirishima in as well. Ochako was the one to coordinate them both. Then you could have come with Kiri. No, I fucking couldn't, because the moment I understood what happened, I lost it, and Denki and Mina restrained me from going after you. Izuku looks away at the words. It turned out fine in the end. But what if it hadn't? You are surrounded by people who would not be able to restrain you if you had lost it, Izuku. That is dangerous. Izuku refused to look him in the eye. He knew that the blonde was right. He knew that Katsuki was the only one that would never be truly scared of Izuku in the moment when his temper controlled him. Everyone always thought Katsuki was the one with the time bomb temper. Never would they imagine that Izuku's temper came from a far more destructive place. What do you want me to say? I'm sorry I didn't wait for you the moment we had an opening to get my sister out. I'm sorry that I decided to put her first above all else. Izuku finally snaps, and guilt paints Katsuki's face. A fucking apology for worrying me and making me hear it from Sero would be a nice starter. Katsuki mutters, and Izuku sighs. I'm sorry, Izuku offers, and Katsuki takes 3 steps to him and pulls him into a hug. I promised Auntie that I would take care of you. I can't do that if you don't let me. You can't always be by my side, Ka-chan, Izuku tells him softly, but Katsuki only pulls him closer. Fucking bet, just watch me. Izuku laughs at that, and Katsuki chuckles. Please tell me that blood is not your own, Katsuki mutters after a couple more beats, and Izuku laughs. No, it's not. I would never let them get a chance. Good, he mutters before pulling away slightly and kissing Izuku. You damn nerd, Katsuki grumbles against his lips, and Izuku pulls him closer. I'm sorry. A soft knock reminds them that they might not have been all that quiet. Izuku opens the door to Eri in Ochako's arms. She heard screaming and got scared, Ochako explained softly, and Izuku looks at the little girl, who shows no sign of tears welling in her eyes. She didn't cry? Izuku asked, equally soft, and Ochako shakes. Why didn't you cry when you were scared, Eri? Izuku asks her, and she plays with a lock of hair. Kai said monsters don't cry. Katsuki snarls at the implications of what other things Overhaul made her believe. Izuku scoffs and gently strokes her long grey hair. You're not a monster, you're 6. Cry if you want to. Eri doesn't seem to believe him, but nods, and Izuku continues. Sorry we scared you. I scared Ka-chan too, today. That's why we were being loud. Eri cocks her head to the side in confusion before looking at the blonde. Ka-chan? Katsuki chuckles and nods, coming up behind to wrap his arms around the brunette's waist. Yeah, I'm Ka-chan, and he's Zuku. I'm Eri, she replies softly, and they both smile. It's nice to meet you, Eri. I'm your older brother, Izuku tells her softly, and she looks confused again, but seems to accept it. Thank you for saving me. Chapter 5. The world don't revolve around you, boy, you're not the only one. Kai would never say he's sad to see that little brat go. She was a nightmare to discipline. But to have her taken by those nasty little pests right under his nose is humiliating. To have to explain to All for One that he lost the man's successor prodigy was horrifying. At the very least, he was able to smoothen it over when he informed the man that he managed to attract another man to his side. A serial killer, Stain, one that lives for the hunt and kill and does not need to be paid in great numbers. Kai stabs his knife into the wanted poster of the green-haired smug brat that had the audacity to step into his home, kill his men, and leave without a single note of proof. You can run, but you can't hide, Kai mutters, just as Nemoto opens the door. If it's anything but information on the pests, I don't want to hear it, Kai tells him, a warning in his tone. He's not in the mood for anything that could piss him off more. Nemoto straightens at the tone and nods before proceeding. All for One has set up another meeting. He invited you and Stain. He wants to discuss the pest issue. Kai slouches back into his chair in a huff. Fucking wonderful, he mutters under his breath and dramatically brings his glove hand to his forehead. Find anything we can about this Deku. I want weaknesses, allies, movements, anything. Kai orders the man, and Nemoto nods firmly. I will personally get right on it, boss. Good. Tell Rappa that he's coming with me to All for One's meeting. Nemoto nods once more. Am I dismissed? He then asks, and Kai waves him off in confirmation. The man closes the door behind him, and Kai takes the knife out of his table to stab at the wanted poster again. I'll find you, Deku. Mark my words. By the time he needed to leave for the mayor's office, poster had been shredded in slash marks, yet his anger had not diluted. His prosthetic hand, on the contrary, did end up getting stuck with its mechanisms, and the routine of rewiring its gears calmed him down enough for his anger to become productive. Kai would like to pretend that he and the mayor were on good terms, but he knew better than anyone that it would be easy for the mayor to make him a memory, the threat he hangs above everyone's heads that come to work for him. A threat that Kai made sure he'd have countermeasures for. He is the leader of the 8 Bullets, goddammit. He would not be forgotten by history if he had anything to do about it. The Shiosake would be nothing without him, and as it stretches over all of Japan, the mayor knows that taking him out would cost a lot of resources. Chisaki, would you join us? The deep voice of the mayor invites him in as he appears at the door, expecting that he would have arrived before their guests. Apologies, I wasn't aware that I was late. Kai bows and All for One chuckles. Such good manners. No, you are quite on time. I was simply explaining the rules to our new associate. He gestures for Kai to stand behind him, and Kai does just that, standing tall in face of Stain, who was slouching on the mayor's couch as he peeks in his ear. His twin swords lie at his feet. "Help us, and you'll end up rich," All for One offers before lining up his threat. "Cross us, and you'll end up a memory." Stain grins wide, flicking whatever he dug out of his ears away. "I'll do it for free." All for One mirrors the grin. "Wonderful. Then let's get down to business." He claps his hands together over his desk as he opens up a very thin file. "You see, we allowed these kids to roam as they pleased, up till now, since they didn't pose any real threat. Now they have crossed the line in thinking they have the right to come after my assets. They need to be reminded of their place." "Do you have any names?" Stain asks as he leans forward to rest his elbows on his knees. Orphan scoffs in dismissal of the thin file. "Only code names as far as we previously bothered to find. Deku's squad, Dynamite, Phantom Thief's squad, and the League." Stain raises a blank brow at the lack of information to go by before settling back into his aloof persona. "No matter. I love the thrill of the hunt." "Start with Deku. He's the main target." Kai interrupts, and the mayor sends him a warning glare for doing so. "Forgive Chisaki. He holds grudges. The boy stole our asset, which Chisaki was responsible for." All for One explains in a disappointed tone, and Stain grins smugly, understanding the bigger picture. "It'll be my honor." Katsuki scoffs when they pass another closed clothes shop. Sure, it's past 6 p.m, but in this neighborhood, he'd thought that at least one would be open for him. "Aww, is someone sulking because their boyfriend is paying attention to someone new?" Mina coos mockingly as she drapes an arm over his shoulders. Katsuki cramps further in on himself with his hands in his pockets as he walks. "Shut up!" he spits at her, and she giggles. Ever since they saved Eri, Izuku's been spending all his free time with her, getting her comfortable, teaching her to defend herself, playing with her, and all that crap. The only spare moment that Katsuki managed to wrangle in for himself turns into a shopping favor. The brat needed clothes, apparently, while Izuku goes to visit their mothers in hopes of digging up their old childhood toys and books. So yes, Katsuki can't fake his joy for this little outing. "Aw, admit it, you just wanted some time together." Mina mocks him again, but before he can snap at her for it, she jumps in front of him and drags someone out of the alley and pushes them against the wall, gun to the head. "Baby, it's me, Kirishima pleads with a mouthful of brick, and Mina jumped back startled. "Sorry, baby," she gasps, and Kyui chuckles. He rubs at his jaw. "Nah, that's my bad. I shouldn't have jumped out like that." Katsuki had only seen a hand coming for him, nothing that was cause for alarm. "I found a store willing to stay open a little longer for you," Kirishima explains, and Mina lights up, happy that their search is coming to an end and they can get to the part that she actually enjoys. The clothes ain't for me, Kiri. I need them for the brat. They have kids' clothes too, Kirishima adds, and Katsuki huffs. Thank fuck that Mina tagged along, since Katsuki wasn't aware that kids had clothes for different ages and heights. The nerd hadn't thought to give him the brat's measurements before sending him out. She was also in charge of finding clothes the brat would like. Katsuki ended up just chilling against the wall, as Mina had the time of her life imagining playing dress-up. Ah, the life of a parent, giving up quality time with your partner to take care of your child, Kiri comments when he joins Katsuki against the wall, knowing that in this place of fashion he has nothing to say for a girl's taste. Katsuki glares at him, but otherwise doesn't snap back. He knew fully well that once Izuku saved his sister, that he would have to take care of her. He wouldn't ask any less of his nerd. That's just the way he is. Katsuki just can't believe he's feeling jealous of a 6-year-old. A 6-year-old that he call brat all he wants, but really is a fucking darling. Kachan! Eri comes running for him as he waltzes into the building, almost tackling him in a jump as she hugs him. Tsuyu laughs openly at the sight as Katsuki lifts her up onto his hip and manages to carry the bags in one hand. Here you go, munchkin, some decent fucking clothes. Katsuki holds them up for her to see, and she opens them with glee. Thank you, she tells him shyly, and Katsuki clicks his tongue but smiles. Yeah, now get off and go play dress up with the extra. I have a nerd to find. She giggles, but slowly slides down from Katsuki's arms and takes the bags out of his hands. When she's on her feet again, Tsuyu follows Eri as she skips down the hall happily, and Katsuki chuckles, watching them go before making his own way to Izuku's office. Oh, Bakugo, great! Ida's voice came from behind, and Katsuki has a split second to catch the helmet as Ida roughly hands it to him. You can go and get Izuku then. He took his bike, but it seems the cops are trying to be funny and they towed it. Katsuki frowns. Who the fuck patrols our streets to tow vehicles? Ida shrugs. Beats me, and caring is above my pay grade. I'm sure you'll love to go get him though, so I'll leave it to you. Ida pats him on the back after adding that last sentence, and leaves Katsuki there in the hall dumbfounded. Kachan? The sweet, confused voice of his boyfriend calls out to him, and Katsuki doesn't hold back his smile. Hey nerd, heard you got your bike towed. Izuku laughs, and Katsuki grins, pulling the nerd by his hood and pushing their lips together. You done running around doing shit? Katsuki whispers against his lips, and the bastard grins. Yeah, Kachan, let's go home. Stain remains perched on the top of the building as he watches the bike drive out of sight. The couple below remaining entirely unaware of the spying eyes from above. He'd spent the whole day tailing the greenette that goes by Deku. The boy was clearly attentive when it came to the asset he took, and Stain will admit he enjoyed learning that the boy had a blood connection to the girl. This information is likely something that the employer never made a point to learn, or he would have mentioned it. Stain is not so easily manipulated. He knows full well that All for One requires a new successor after his perfectly bred previous one bit him and disappeared into the shadows. The fruits of his efforts came in the form of a certain blonde he easily recognized from the lineup of pests he was instructed on. The dynamite boss, and it would seem Deku's weakness. After a whole day of following the greenette, not once did he see the boy lower his guard in the same way he did with the blonde. Stain grins, licking his lips at the idea forming in his mind. The most dangerous thing for someone in their line of work is having a weakness, something to lose. They really should have been more careful. Anyone could have been watching, even on their territory. Those boys have just made this job a game to play, and he always wins. His job was supposed to be simple: get his nerd's bike and go home. But no, Pinky decided to come along and chit-chat so much that he ended up blowing a fuse loud enough for them to grab Stray Fed's attention, only for it being that blonde officer who'd chased him and Izuku down before. "Did we lose him?" Mina heaves between attempted smothered breaths as Katsuki tries to regain his own. They stayed quiet when the shadow of the officer came in close to the alley they were hiding in, only for someone else to run into a trash can nearby, distracting the officer away. They both sigh in relief, taking a deep breath freely now that they didn't need to be worried about getting caught. "We'll never get the nerd's bike at this rate. Can't his link in the Force just deliver it?" "No, that would mean giving away HQ," Katsuki replies easily, and she groans. "Can't we get it tomorrow?" "They'll have to put it in the system eventually. Now is the opening." "Fine," she groans, and Katsuki rolls his eyes. The nerd would have done it himself, but the rat made a fuss when he left earlier. Something about her growing attached to him, which is fucking fantastic for him and their relationship if she cuts in on their private time too. "I think we're in the clear," Mina huffs, and Katsuki sighs, running a hand through his hair. "Okay, then let's go." He sees a pale hand reach for him and takes a step to the side. Mina sees it too, but unlike before, she turns and smiles. "Babe, you can't keep sneaking up to us like..." Her sentence is cut off by the hand slamming into her face and slamming her head into the concrete, knocking her out in one hit. Katsuki sucks in a breath, but is a second too late as a katana comes to his neck. "You left your guard down. You should have known better than that. When you take something from the Underlord, you should be prepared for the counterattack." Katsuki holds back a growl as the owner of the sword comes out of the shadows. "I wonder what your partner will do when I deliver your head to him." He sneers, and Katsuki doesn't let his fear betray him. He knows what Deku will do. He will go feral. This fear seems to translate badly, and the man in front of him smirks. "Don't worry, I'll have my fun with you first." A shiver runs up Katsuki's spine and the next second, it all goes dark. Mina feels her eyes suddenly spring open as a horrible smell comes through her nose. She coughs and lurches over to empty her stomach in the alleyway before she regains herself. Two shadowy figures stand around her and she tries to arm her defense, but they only placate their own arms in surrender. "We are not here to hurt you," the smaller one tells her. He's dressed all in black with piercing red eyes that remind her of her boss. "We're here to warn you," the slightly taller one tells her, and she notes his piercing golden eyes. Yet the red eyes of the younger remind her who she was with, and she hurries to stand. The younger one catches her as she falters. "My boss, where is he?" she asks them frantically, and they remain quiet for a moment. "We can tell you, if you can promise that Deku will keep the offender alive for us." Knowing Deku, she can't promise that. The man goes feral when it comes to Katsuki. "I can promise we'll keep him breathing," she offers instead. They share a look at the change before nodding. She gulps and the smaller one helps her lean onto the wall. The offender goes by the name Stain. He was hired recently by All For One to enact revenge on Deku and Dynamite for stealing his successor. We've been following Stain since he re-emerged. He likes the thrill of the hunt, and he likes playing with his prey more. Dynamite is his bait. Deku is his real target. Mina finishes for them, and they both nod in unison. She grins as much as she can through the piercing headache. "Then they have another thing coming. Deku won't go over so meekly. They just reawakened a rabid beast. The story goes that only Dynamite can control him when he goes feral," the younger one states, and Mina clicks her tongue. "Not always. Deku has a foul temper. It depends on how far he's lost to his own madness. It's why Katsuki always said, no matter what, stay out of his way." The two share a look before nodding and turning away. "Then we won't get in his way." Mina only blinked, and then they were gone. She knows all the players on the field. She knows exactly who they were, and she also knows that they would be powerful allies to have. A shiver rolls up her spine as Mina straightens herself against the wall and takes some deep breaths, fear rolling in with each one she takes when she realizes what her next step is. She has to tell him. Tomura feels a shiver run up his spine in fearful anticipation, as if something is very, very wrong. The air suddenly turns thicker as an aura swells over them. The door to the bar slams open aggressively, and every person in the room flinches at the sight of the person standing in the doorway. Darby and Spinner, who jumped ready to fight at the loud slam, stood still and looked back at their boss. Himiko tilted her head and grinned with all her teeth visible. "Zuku-chan!" She skipped over to the shadowy figure of the man, but stopped dead in her tracks in fear. No one dared to anger the beast before them, or look away from the man with the baseball bat lying loose in his hand, scratches all over it from being dragged here in the limp hand of its owner. "What happened?" Tomura asks firmly as Deku glares at him. eyes only focused on the leader in the room. Tenko can feel his brother's pain reflected in those emerald eyes, and he knows it can't mean anything good. Deku's eyes turn to steel, then with a sharp, murderous intent. He took Ka-chan. Chapter 6. Act full, act full, act full. Trigger warnings for implied torture. Mina was still bleeding somewhat from her forehead when she made it back to HQ, her eyes somewhat unseeing at the fear of what Deku might do when she would have to tell him. No one else could do it. She's the only one that could debrief him. But babe? Ejiro looked very worried when she walked straight past him and to the neighboring building. He followed her in, and the girls greeted her at the door politely, but went silent with seriousness when they saw the hollow look in her eyes. I take it that Bakugo was unsuccessful in getting the boss's bike back? Ochako jokes, but Tsuyu's eyes takes it all in. Where is he? I need to talk to Deku first, Mina said simply, and all their faces dropped. Fuck. Tsuyu, take Eri from him. Get Shoto to meet him in the office. Tell Ida to lock the armory. Ochako orders efficiently before leading Mina to the office in all seriousness. Remember, debrief to the point. Tell it to him straight. It's okay. She tries to reassure her, but Mina knows her fear is right. She can see it mirrored in the brunette's eyes. The fact that Katsuki was taken is a clear declaration of war. Deku's reaction is another thing altogether. Mina's breathing quickened when she heard footsteps get closer and closer, but any and all sounds stopped the instant the door opened and Deku entered. She stood automatically, and he went rigid at the lack of presence of the blonde. Where is he? He asked carefully, and she could feel the sweat drip down her face. We were ambushed. I was told it was a man called Stain. They took him to be bait for you, as a counterattack for taking Eri. Bait? He wasn't their target? Officially, you both were, but Stain, he wants to play with you. Mina falters over her words as she stays focused, her eyes not straining from that single blood stain in the carpet. His desk chair scrapes across the ground and Mina refuses to look up. I see. She knows he's sitting at his desk, looking down upon her, the way he would his subordinates. But now is not a moment for her pride. She is in a lion's den, and all that matters is not angering the beast. What else were you told? At that she raised her head. The emphasis in the question scares her, but the eyes she meets terrify her. The assassins, they have been keeping an eye on him. They knew who hired him. All for one, Deku supplied, and Mina nods ever so slightly. What did they want for the information they gave you? He said in a disturbingly even tone. Mina gulps. They want to keep him alive. What did you tell them? I said that we'd keep him breathing, she offers, and he seems to approve of that. Good. He stands, and Mina catches the glint in his eyes that makes her stay seated. He would keep him breathing, but barely so. Stain will wish he was dead. They'd been dismissed since then. Mina had returned to their base immediately and hasn't left her room since, while Deku has been hunting, and she hopes to any god that might be watching that he doesn't run into anyone that might stop him. Ah, now what? As he opens the door to a very tired-looking Shoto, only for the man to hand him a bag. Another clean-up? Sero stops mid-walk as he passes with a shocked face. You're shitting me? Another? How many cops is he killing? Anyone that gets in his way. Shoto shrugs and then sighs. Why do you think we're doing the best we can to figure out where they're keeping him? The boss won't cool down until he finds the bastard. Sero is right. This is getting out of hand. Then you convince the cops a man is on the prowl. Shoto huffs, and Kiri thinks on it. Fine. He takes a bag and closes the door. Sero lands him with a similar worried look, and Kiri rubs his face. Sero, tell Denki to hurry up. We need to find him fast. Fortunately, for times like this, Kiri can thank the diligence of their boss for planting a tracker in his body for them, knowing that if this ever happened, they would need to find him. Kai waited poised against the facing wall as Stain woke his prisoner up. All for One was less amused by the living body that he would have been with a mutated corpse. But at the promise of 2 mutated corpses served on a platter after a fun game of bait, he gave in. The blonde's eyes shot open with a bit more prompting, and the calculating eyes scanned the room before landing on his captors. His eyes became guarded as a low growl emanates from him. Kai grins, walking over to their tied-up bait, bending down somewhat to be closer in eye level. Guess you're the consequence for stealing our brat. The blonde snarls, and Kai grins. Don't worry, we'll have a lot more fun with you than we did with her. You've got no other use than riling up your partner. The blonde's eyes dilate a little in fear, and Kai scoffs a laugh. Tell me, boy, where is my successor? All for One addresses the kid with a stern tone that has Kai remembering his place if the blonde scoffs as he turns to look the man in the eye. How should I know? You have a lot of illegitimate bastards. Get a babysitter if you're losing track. The kid spits, and Kai watches his boss scowl, clearly displeased. I asked politely. It seems I was being too optimistic. I'll ask again when my new friend has taught you some manners. You want a successor? Why don't you get your dick wet again and this time take responsibility from the beginning? The kid spits again before Stain manages to wrap a gag on him. All for One straightens his posture at the words, and Kai takes a couple steps back as the aura in the room thickens. You have a big mouth for such a small mind. If I had the willpower, I would turn you into my next successor. But if the rumors are true about your partner, I might like him instead. All for One smiles as the kid's eyes widen in understanding of something simply between the two of them. Stain seems to smile with equal understanding as Kai simply stands there confused. All for One turns to leave when he's sufficiently amused by it all, and Kai follows him out automatically, only to be stopped by a guard. Stay with them. If he says anything more, report it immediately. I don't want Stain leaving the prisoner at any given moment. Don't let this asset get away. Kai gulps as his boss's face gets in closer to whisper. I don't care How many bodies have to fall if that green-haired pest isn't among the dead? Your head will replace him. Kai nods the way a subordinate does, and his boss seems pleased as he steps away and leaves him there, standing in the wake of his realization. Kai knew the day would come where his position may be the death of him. He'd prepared for this. He was never willing to die for the man he served. He served one man, and one man only. Himself. Stain turns around to look at him in that unnatural way of his as the blonde struggles calmly with his restraints. How does the boss like to torture his prisoners? Mentally first, then physically. Can you do that? Kai answers evenly and in a bored tone. Stain grins manically. Yes, I can. The office door slams open to announce the shadowing presence of the crazed Deku, his aura daring anyone to give him another answer than the one he was looking for. Denki jumped right out of his chair, falling over and scrambling to get back up as the Greenet's second-in-command shows up behind him to leash him. You're scaring him. I'll show him something really scary if we find Kachin with a single scratch on him. Deku growls. Well, then we're glad that I found the location of his tracker. Denki stutters, fearing for his life, and Sero stands tall behind him. Chill it, Deku, or we're going to sedate you. You know the boss has the drugs for it. Deku scowls and takes a deep breath as Shoto pats his back. They were right. Scaring off his allies wasn't going to get him anywhere, but Izuku knew if he let go of his anger for a moment too long, he'd collapse and never get up again. We're getting him back, boss, Shoto reminds him, and the others in the room nod in agreement. Tomura has confirmed he'll join us in the retrieval, Shoto adds to the room, and Denki sighs at the news. Well, that's good. We're gonna need all the helpers we can muster. With that, he turns the computer screen to the room, and Izuku sucks in a breath when he sees the location pinned as Katsuki. The mayor's manor? Shoto questions, shocked, and Denki nods. Clearly he believes that overhaul spaces are no longer up to snuff, Sero comments, and Deku scowls. Entering that is a declaration of war, he mutters, before sighing heavily and waving his own words away. But he started it, so now it's a fair game. That's one way of looking at the board, Sero chuckles grimly, and Deku grins. He has no idea who he's playing with. Tomura scowls as the door to his bar slams open again. Fortunately, the sun is out, so there's no one in it except for his jumpy bartender. I'm going to start charging anyone who slams those doors. We're not in a dramatic manga here, Kurigiri grumbles as the dark brunette comes through the door, looking tired as hell. My brother has been keeping you busy, I see, Tomura jokes, and she takes a seat and chugs the drink she's offered in one go. Once that blonde brat is back, I'm taking a week off. I'll sleep then, Asui grumbles as she places a building plan on the table. Tomura's eyes widen when he spots the location noted on top of the plans. Shit. The boss needs you to map out the entries and exits, as well as places he might be held. The tracker we have couldn't tell us where in the building he is, she informs him further, paying no attention to his inner crisis. He never thought he'd have to go back to that building again. He knows the old man took Katsuki as bait for Izuku, but there's no way he's figured out who the brunette really is. Even so, this feels like a very conscious move. He has many places where he could hold Bakugo. Tomura goes to explain any possible place the man could be holding the blonde before further explaining the entry points, guards, numbers of men in the house, and blind spots to the man's security defense system to allow them to pass the main gate in the first place. But considering Bakugo is Deku's bait, he would hold him in a place that is most advantageous for his men to defend. He'll stay in the safety of his office and watch it all go down, so it would also be a place with the most digital security. Asui writes it down, her tongue sticking out of her mouth, and she thinks while noting, I'm gonna have to call Deku about this. I would suggest a more efficient hacker, Tomura interrupts, and she looks at him surprised. Earphone jack? Tomura nods. Darby has his ways, but he can get in contact with her. If she cooperates, we can use her to get in digitally and analyze the house from that point of view. Wherever the digital security will be the hardest to get through is where they are hiding him. She catches on, and Tomura hums. Of course, he wouldn't be that obvious. He'd have traps ready, so we'll need multiple teams. Deku's got a plan for that already. She speaks up confidently as she notes it all down in full concentration. I wouldn't expect less from him. Tomura chuckles proudly, and Asui grumbles. He's on an adrenaline rush. I'm surprised he's still standing. Tomura sighs. Love can fuel a lot of men to push past their limits. So can anger. I think the boss is using his anger more. His love will break him down. He can't keep anything from you guys, can he? He grins, and she scoffs. Anyone with eyes could see that those two have been inseparable in more ways than one for years. No matter what happens in that fight, I'll stay by his side until Bakugo can stand beside him. Tomura tells her full of sincerity, and she looks incredibly revealed as she sighs. Good. The blonde had been holding in his screams by biting down on the gag they provided it to shut him up, and it's been pissing Kai off immensely. He'd been ordered to stay close and make sure no one would come steal the boss's bait, which was fine, but he would have liked to hear some excitement while doing his job. Kai finally barges into the room as Stain is cleaning a bloody knife of a rag. His name is Dynamite, right? So I thought I'd carve some starburst shapes all over his body and see at what point he's willing to talk. Stain explains, calmly grinning like a madman, as Kai spares a glance towards their prisoner with a very bloody and carved up chest. He's holding out pretty well, but I'm sure he'll break soon. The crazy man adds, and Kai looks back at him, somewhat disturbed. Fine, he huffs and retreats out of the room, not missing all the cameras trained on the blonde, picking up every second of torture the kid is going through. Let me know when it starts getting interesting, he adds as a last thought, and Stain perks up more at that. You'll be able to hear it loud and clear from your position when he does. Stain is true to his word apparently, because the blonde started screaming half an hour later. Katsuki heaves a breath, through the pain as the psychopath leaves him with a pleased grin. Get some rest. It's no fun if your vocals aren't in their best shape. Katsuki wants to snap back, but he can find his voice for it. All he can manage is to spit out the blood in his mouth in defiance. Oh, I do hope we can have you screaming by the time Deku comes for you. Imagine how reckless he'll become. That short-haired bastard grins as he leans against the door frame. Each time the psychopath leaves, that bastard comes instead, as if they expect Katsuki to hop away in his chair the moment they turn their backs. Katsuki sneers and the bastard laughs. Midoriya Izuku, what a curious case. He came up from nothing, but somehow made a name for himself in the underground of our city. It does make me wonder where I've seen that temper before. The bastard digs, and Katsuki scoffs breathlessly. There's no fucking way anyone could figure it out. Even Izuku's own mother has no clue who exactly the Greenette's father is. Izuku only found out due to a coincidental meeting, and Katsuki only really figured out the whole mess years after that. The bastard grins as if knowing how much Katsuki is reading into the emphasis on his words. Then again, you have a temper too, don't you, Bakugo Katsuki? So, the guy did his homework. Big fucking deal. The bastard seems to think he's done much more than that as his grin widens. I wonder what it will do to you when you see Deku's head roll at your feet. Katsuki struggles in his seat, fighting his restraints, clenching his mouth to snap his teeth at the bastard for that threat. He might not be able to use his voice, but the fight isn't out of him yet. The bastard seems to like that. Good. It's more fun if you fight. Katsuki spits another mouthful of blood, and that sends the bastard springing back in disgust as he reaches for some disinfectant. A smirk tugs at Katsuki's mouth. He can still hold on. Izuku lurches from his desk in a sudden rush. He'd fallen asleep at his desk. He almost falls as he falters standing up, and all the ruckus summons his second-in-command. Shit, what are you still doing here? If you're going to sleep, sleep on the couch. You need to be in good condition. Shoto reaches to stabilize him and help him to the couch, but Izuku pulls away to crash into his desk again. His leg fails him. Shut up, you're not Kachan. Izuku shrugs him off angrily as Shoto tries to help him stand. Only Katsuki can tell him off in that tone. Shoto won't take it though, as he smacks Izuku's head. Don't bite the hand of the friend who loves you. We'll stand by you when you fight. We won't question your orders, but let us help, goddammit. Izuku looks at him speechless. Shoto doesn't seem to need anything else and picks Izuku back up again to place him on the couch without a fight. Has Tomura gotten back to you? No. Then sleep. There is nothing you can do now. Rest and we'll fight to get Katsuki back tomorrow. Shoto pleads somewhat but moves him to lie down forcefully, making a strong point. Izuku's eyes slip shut against the warm hands holding his shoulders. Please hold on, Kachan, he whispers into the dark, and his soft hand brushes back his curls. Love you, nerd, but don't exhaust yourself for me, or I'll kick your ass. Promise? A familiar snort followed by a soft kiss. Yeah, promise. Izuku's eyes shoot open again with certainty, and he almost cries when he sees red eyes looking down at him. Not Kachan, he reminds himself, as he sits up to look at his brother and wipes the tiredness from his eyes. Please tell me we're ready to go. Tenko smiles softly at him before turning into his serious Tomura persona. Earphone Jack got in and she's cooperating. We're ready to go. Chapter 7. Where's my friend, the Smiley? The saying goes, when the night falls, the mobs rise. So using the dawn as their cover would grant them the element of surprise. They'd spent the night planning and arranging themselves instead. With Earphone Jack in the system, we've learned 3 things. 1. They've set traps to lure us in the hopes of separating us. 2. They have guards all over the place, and the places where security is the strongest, they seem to have less men. 3. Stain has not left the area of one of the floors that is heavily protected. Tomura informs everyone in the briefing room once they've suited up with their weapons strapped to them and guns on their side. Deku focuses himself on cleaning his bat as he listens to their plan take form. So, Stain is not leaving his prisoner. Darby comments the obvious. He's Tomura's second in command. Of course he'd get involved knowing that both his friend and brother would take in this. He won't be the only one guarding Bakugo though, not if they're using him as bait. Sarah adds and Suyu hums. Overhaul will likely be there too. He will have to regain his honor after losing Eri. In that case, we know who we're up against. Kiri states, crossing his arms, and Deku stands. They want us to split up, so we will, but we'll make sure they split away from their posts as well. The room turns to him aghast, while Tomura chuckles. Playing bait? Deku shakes his head darkly. Sure, let's call it that. Then I'll go with you. I'll never hear the end of it if someone doesn't give you backup, Tomura says with a sense of finality, and Ochako grins. Good, that settles that. They had 3 teams, each with their own mission, and that's as far as the plan went. Group A, locate Katsuki in the building and get him out. That would be Dynamite's team. Group B, go ahead of Group A and take anyone out that got in the way of their mission. That will be Deku's team. Group C, bait to get Stain and Overhaul away from the positions, which would leave Tomura and Deku to take them on with Darby at his boss's side. Deku held his baseball bat fiercely as he laid it to rest somewhat above him on his shoulder as he made their way to the large SUVs. Look, Zuku! Eri ran out to greet him before they got to the garage, and everyone stopped to watch the 6-year-old embrace the mob boss that put his weapon down for her. What you got there? He asks as she smiled unfazed by all the gear and guns. She held a roughly made pink creation, put it on to show him. A balaclava. See? Now we're matching. She points at the one he's sporting around his neck, and he chuckles. I'm sure you'll grow into it. She nods and smiles, hopefully, and it softens his heart. Stay here and be good to Tenya-chan. She nods in promise, and he kisses her grey hair before standing up and taking his bat back. We're off. Each team arrived in separate SUVs at separate points and went the rest of the way on foot. they couldn't risk looking suspicious coming up to that manor in a convoy of cars. The only team that could, in fact, arrive blatantly by car was the bait. So Deku laughed maniacally as they drove straight into the big fancy gates, all the way to the front door, breaking through that as well, and then only hopping out of the car when they were in the entrance hall. Despite the category of groups, Group C was the first to enter. The guards were ready for him as he lifted a gun in one hand and a baseball bat in the other. Deku grins from ear to ear as the guards scramble. Let's play. Katsuki is snapped awake by the boss's metallic hand, reopening the wound in his mouth, making him spit blood. What the fuck? He started croaking in complaint, only to be gagged again. The bastard wasn't even looking at him anymore as the psychopath came running in again. They're here? He sounded ecstatic, and Katsuki shivers somewhat at the voice in fear. That bastard isn't coming for him. The bastard growls and the psychopath smiles with glee. Then I'll go to him. He simply decides, bringing out the twin katanas that they've been threatening to decapitate Katsuki with. It takes a moment for his brain to connect to the information shared, and he holds in his thoughts. Deku's here, and he's not coming for Katsuki. He watches the psychopath leave questioningly and stays quiet, as the bastard seems to get more and more annoyed. That fucking brat had one job to do. Take the bake. The fuck is he doing staying at the entrance for? He huffs, growls only for the answer to come through by the sudden slamming of doors and the quick knockout maneuvers of one Uraka Ochako. Mina rushes to ungag him, and Katsuki chuckles in relief. You bastards took your time. Sorry, boss, comes the immediate reply. Sarah and Denki sucks in breaths at the mess that had been made of his chest, and Katsuki felt the aura of concern fill the room. It outright pisses him off. Don't just fucking stand there, untie me, he yells at them, and Kiri is quick to follow through on the orders. Katsuki rubs at his raw wrists and cracks his back for being tied to that chair for fuck knows how long. Now, where's Deku? He growls, and everyone hitches their breath. Kiri is the only one that gathers the balls to answer. You're not going to him. We're taking you out of here. If you go anywhere near him in that state, he'll lose all sense of sanity. His stomach drops at the words, and one look at Ochako tells him all he needs to. Fuck. Izuku suddenly starts sobbing as he drops his weapon on one of the bodies below, but doesn't even notice. His eyes never leave Katsuki's. I am sorry, Kachan. I'm so sorry. I never wanted you to see me like this. Covered in blood. Katsuki interrupts him, and Izuku looks down at his hand sheepishly. It's not mine. Katsuki sighs. You think that makes me love you less? At that, Izuku looks back up and meets his eyes. You don't? Katsuki takes each step forward to him until he is carefully holding the parts of Izuku's cheek without drying blood. I think you're fucking scary, but also fucking incredible. Fight to win, right? Izuku chuckles. And win to save. Katsuki doesn't wait a second, pushing past his team and Deku's, taking weapons from bodies he comes across and runs through the large manor towards pained sounds and crunching bodies that meet Deku's bat. Kiri is hot on his heels, and when Katsuki staggers at the sight of his greenette in a fight with that psychopath, he grabs hold of him tightly. You can't go there, Cats. He needs all his focus right now, and you'll only make him lose control. Kiri hisses at him, and Katsuki lets himself be held back because he knows the redhead is right. Tomura and Darby are with him down there. He'll be alright. We need to get out of here, Mina urges them, and Katsuki spares one more glance at his blood-covered boyfriend before shrugging Kiri off him. He better come home in one piece or we'll be right back here again for a fucking massacre. Katsuki promises them, and no one protests. Izuku felt some very familiar eyes looking down at him from above, yet the moment he had some time to look, all he found was a pair of golden eyes looking rather vengeful. Izuku holds his bat relaxed as he looks up at the owner of the golden eyes properly. Chisaki Kai, I've always wondered what made you turn away from your adoptive father within the Yakuza, only to create your own faction and become the lapdog for the mayor. Tomura rests on the landing of the staircase beside him, Stain lying in a bloody mess by their feet, twin katanas left scattered around the room from where they lost to Deku's crazy swings. Maybe some unresolved daddy issues, Tomura gripes, and Deku snorts. Do you think the mayor would mind that his new toy is kinda broken? Deku asks as a foreign thought, and Tomura laughs. Nah, it's not like it's got any use for him now. He'll probably be glad we took him off his hands. Deku looks right at the golden eyes above as he smiles. That would be 2 assets of his. The overall has let it slip through his fingers. How will he react to that? Overhaul's eyes widen with sudden fear that multiplies as Tomura replies to him. I was taught that failure's made for useless efforts. He doesn't like anything useless. Both of them fall into a fit of laughter that is ruined by a groan from Stain below them. Alright, Deku mutters, bending down to face Stain as he nudges the limp head. Don't worry, someone is coming to get you. It seems you have quite powerful enemies. They instructed me to keep you barely breathing. I'd wish I was dead with what you did to him, Deku mutters, and Deku lights up. That's what I was going for. Tomura chuckles roughly, and Overhaul keeps them from atop the stairs. He doesn't even spare a glance of acknowledgement to all the fallen guards they've murdered. Darby strolls back in from outside. Blood he spilled now dried on him. No longer out of breath from the exertion of the fight, but instead fighting a proud grin on his lips. They're here. Not even a minute goes by before the famed assassin duo come through the barged open door. The blonde lets out a wolf whistle, and Deku grins proudly as he uses his bat to push Stain's head towards them. As promised, the darker one looks away and coughs into his fist at the bloodied sight. Deku frowns. Oh, sorry for the mess. I wouldn't have expected less from the rabid killer, the blonde one says in an amused way, and Deku scowls at the name and clicks his tongue. It's a name he has gotten after one of the first fights he got involved in where his temper got let loose. The name was whispered through the neighborhood schools and eventually died down when dynamite rose up and they could beat anyone that uttered the name. The use of rabid was sometimes spoken as rabbit, after his quick as bunny reflexes. It was a joke of a name to Izuku, and he hated being referred to by it, though in cases where the scene does look like it came from a rabid creature, he can understand the link. Do you want him or not? Because I can still kill him, Deku says he in a bored tone, and the blonde chuckles darkly and placates his hands. Okay, we'll take him. Thanks, the darker one adds as the blonde spares a look at Darby. I like him, he tells him, gesturing his head somewhat back at Deku, and the greenette scowls at Darby laughs. Then I'll make sure he has your details if he needs them. In that case, let me give you some friendly advice. The blonde smiles at Deku with something hidden underneath. That golden raven looking down at us? He had more than one reason for wanting to be part of Eri's life, the same way you do. Tomura turns abruptly to them both and then makes eye contact with a thug that is indeed still looking down at them. Deku didn't even need to ask, as the shock is likely clearly painted on his face. We work in the shadows. It is where we strive. Therefore, we get to see the secrets people hide there. We didn't get to see or hear this little secret, but we heard it from one who learned it himself, the blonde adds, and Deku follows his brother's eyes up to once again make contact with the golden eyes, dilated and understanding. How ironic to think that out of all of us, Eri, sweet little Eri, is the one to have inherited his genes in her appearance. Tomura chuckles, but ultimately places a strong hand on his shoulder. You're exhausted. Time to get you home, brother. Izuku sucks in a breath at the information he just confirmed to the whole room and everyone in it. The blonde assassin simply smiles warmer at him before glancing over to Dabai, who's been staying rather quiet through the whole ordeal. I'll help you carry the heavyweight out, he tells the blonde, and the small assassin rolls his eyes and walks out first. Izuku watches as the blonde bows a dramatic goodbye before taking one of Stain's legs and simply starts to drag the body out. Darby springs to action a second later to get Stain's arms and carry him, reprimanding the assassin for his careless behavior. Go home. I'll take care of our new half-brother. Tomura pushes him out of the door, where Izuku finds Shoto still waiting for him, nearly asleep against a pillar. Go kiss your lover, he adds, and Izuku smiles as Shoto's eyes blink open tidily before registering him. Ready to go home? He grumbles sleepily, and Izuku confirms, taking his bat in hand and dragging it up behind him. Let's go. Katsuki would normally be ashamed to say that he fell asleep the moment his head hit the pillow, but he'd been tortured for fuck knows how long, and he was exhausted. He likely made it a lot easier for the doctor his team brought to treat him by being asleep, since he woke up with bandages that weren't there when he fell asleep. He is asleep. The doctor treated all his wounds and bandaged him up. He's treated Katsuki before and has assured us that none of his wounds are infected and he'll heal just fine. Katsuki registers Mina's voice outside his door, speaking softly as not to wake him up. Okay. A meek answer comes, and Katsuki shoots up in his bed at the voice. He winces as he pulls at the wounds on his chest, but still gets up out of his bed. A body slumps against his door, and Katsuki stops himself from opening it. I won't make you go home, but if you're gonna wait here, please go take a shower. You're covered in blood. Mina chastises him, and Katsuki can only smile to the tone. I don't care. I just want to make sure he's okay, comes Izuku's meek reply that has Katsuki finally opening the door and Izuku falling back at his feet. Hey nerd. Katsuki smiles softly down at him as Izuku's eyes widen with emotions, and Mina scoffs before walking away. Katsuki can sense Izuku's tears coming, so he kneels down to brush away the sweat-filled curls out of his eyes. You look worse off than me, Katsuki jokes as he takes his boyfriend in. I don't care as long as you're okay, he repeats the words he told Mina, and Katsuki scowls. Well, I care. I'm clearly fine, so go take a shower. He doesn't really. It wouldn't matter to him if Izuku was bathed in blood. He would still want to kiss the man crazy. But the nerd needs to take better care of himself. Izuku pouts, but stands up slowly and walks further into Katsuki's room as he heads for the blonde's shower. He stops at the bathroom door and turns to him. Are you not coming? He asks in a sad tone. Katsuki closes the door in answer and locks it before walking over to him and hugging him fiercely. Yeah, baby, I'm here. That's all it takes for Izuku's tears to come flowing down as he sobs in Katsuki's arms. Normally, Katsuki would take care of Izuku when he cries before opening himself up in the same way for the greenette to return the favor. But they've been through too much in the last hours that Katsuki can't hold it in as he holds his trembling boyfriend. The tears stream down his own face, and Izuku holds him tightly in return as they both cry in each other's arms. Katsuki washed all the blood of Izuku as the greenette carefully traced all of Katsuki's wounds that would no doubt scar over. The kisses that came after were soft and careful, as if they were both scared the other would disappear if they got too greedy. When they made it into bed, Katsuki held Izuku in his arms, while Izuku clutched onto him like a koala. Katsuki knew that he'd been waking up to drool on his chest, but couldn't care less. He was home. Kai glared back at the girl that Shigaraki had ordered to keep an eye on him. Her eyes are narrowed in on him personally as she plays with a knife in her hand, twirling it like a professional doing tricks kids do with pencils. He knew when he'd researched his parentage that his biological father had taken in a boy to be his successor. There was no blood between them, yet his father took the boy in. Yet that same man was willing to disregard any other blood-related child. Kai could understand that. Who would want an illegitimate bastard being their successor? A child from a woman that meant nothing to the Lord of the Underground, only produced by a woman who wasn't proficient enough in keeping her legs closed. Kai never discovered who his birth mother was. She simply left him on the doorsteps of the Yakuza, thinking that in that home he would be safer than her. Kai left the safety of that home the moment he discovered whom his blood came from. If he couldn't be his father's successor, he'd get close as he could to the man instead. Then, of course, the brat of a successor ran away, and Kai was given new orders and placed by his father's side. He was happy that way. Until a blood-related child was dropped on the doorstep and his father took her in. She would be his successor, not the man that had been serving him without complaint for years. "Hey Miko, that's enough," Shigaraki tells her as he steps through the door, and she huffs, but leaves as she is told to. "As I'm sure you know, unlike Izuku, I don't actually have any blood relation to All For One. Nevertheless, I consider him my brother since I was raised by the man who Izuku inherited his temper and bloodlust from." Kai nods. He'd seen it in those crazed green eyes, the same look he'd seen countless times on the mare. It was nearly identical. It is what made him stop in his pursuit to follow through on his commands and just watch as the greenette massacred all the guards belonging to the man that stole his lover. Kai will admit that he has felt anger like that before, yet he never acted on it. He doesn't like the mess it would make. "Since you know this, you also know that if our father gets a hand on you, your head will go rolling." Kai glares at the man for stating the obvious, yet Shigaraki only stares back blankly. After a couple of minutes, the point is clear. If he leaves now, they'll sell him out. "What do you want?" Kai eventually concedes, and Shigaraki smiles. "Glad you asked." He turns around as he moves to sit at his desk dramatically, making Kai roll his eyes. "We want to overthrow the Lord of the Underground." Kai scoffs at the declaration. "And have who take over?" "The three of us. You, me, and Deku. It's fitting, don't you think? The runaway successor, the crazed illegitimate son, and the former lackey." Shigaraki paints the picture, and Kai will admit, it did sound ironically satisfying. Either one of them had the crew of their own that would back them with more loyalty than anyone serving All For One. That man rules with fear. They rule with respect. Kai smiles as the idea becomes brighter in his mind. "I guess that would mean I would have to learn your rules." Shigaraki smiles. "The rules are simple, brother. Don't double-cross us." Kai wouldn't dare. He worked hard to be considered a successor. If he couldn't get a power by succession, he'll fight for it. Chapter 8. Break it down, bitch. Let me see you back it up. Soft, gentle knocks drive Katsuki from his slumber. Izuku is still clutching onto him for dear life, even in his sleep, and the sight of his lover drooling on him makes his heart swell in happiness. 3 gentle knocks tap on his door again, as Katsuki rubs the sleep from his eyes and tests his voice. "Come in," he croaks, and the door opens to a small head of silver hair and curious red eyes. "Kachan?" she whispers, and Katsuki smiles and waves her over. She walks over quietly and stops in awe when she sees Izuku. "Is Izuku okay?" she asks in a soft voice, and Katsuki nods. "He's just tired," She nods in understanding. He was very worried about you, she tells him, as if that explains it all, and Katsuki smiles down at the greenette. I know, he answers absent-mindedly before turning back to the little girl and noticing something in her hands. What do you got there? A gift. She smiles proudly as she takes an object out of the small cloth bag in her hands. I decorated Zuku's and Kachan's guns. Katsuki's jaw drops as he watches the little girl explain excitedly how Ida helped her take care of them and use materials that wouldn't get in the way from their use while still being personalized for them. Katsuki turned them over in his hand and notes that she even got their names on them. Katsuki got an orange cross painted over his black handgun with dynamite on one of the orange lines, while Izuku has a green tint to it, fitted with a silver of his handgun, and Deku written in bold letters over the side. Clearly, she'd been helped with writing their names, but the rest of the coloring is clear to have been with the unsteady hand of a child. Do you like them? She eventually asked shyly, and Katsuki smiles before petting her head sweetly. Yeah, Squirt, they're cool. She shines with a compliment and bounces happily on the balls of her feet. Okay now, Eri, let them rest. Mina's sweet voice calls out for her, and Eri turns to her excitedly. Okay. She waves Katsuki goodbye at the door before Mina closes the door behind her with a knowing smile. Katsuki looks down at the guns once more before putting them on his bedside table and curling himself around his koala of a boyfriend again. The next thing to wake him up was soft kisses to his face. Katsuki wakes up slowly to emerald green eyes full of love above him. Morning, nerd, Katsuki says endearingly, and Izuku smiles softly back. Resting gently on his elbows, he gazes at Katsuki. Good morning, Kachan. How long have you been awake and staring at me? Katsuki jokes, and Izuku looks away with a light flush to his cheeks. I don't know, he says sheepishly, and Katsuki laughs, kissing the greenette on his freckled cheek. It's okay, I know I'm gorgeous. Izuku laughs, and Katsuki tackles him back against the pillows, caging the man under his arms as he leans over him. What, you disagree, nerd? Izuku chuckles and shakes his head. Nah, you're gorgeous. Damn right I am, Katsuki chuffs before giving Izuku a chaste kiss. And so are you. Izuku smiles as he cups Katsuki's cheeks and gently strokes them. Lucky us. Katsuki returns a soft smile. Yeah, lucky us. Katsuki can feel when the soft moment ends as Izuku's eyes catch on one of Katsuki's new adornments on his chests. Izuku pulls himself up to sit, forcing Katsuki to sit as well to avoid a collision of their heads, and reaches out to pull Katsuki's t-shirt up to see the damage. Izuku, it's fine, it's okay. Katsuki tries to pull against him, but Izuku insists. Show me, I want to see. Katsuki lifts his shirt and takes it off, but instead of choked gasps that he was expecting, he gets soft fingers tracing each scar. Katsuki sees the darkness around Izuku's eyes, and the anger, the pain, the want of revenge, and somehow it relaxes him. Izuku is angry for him, but not scared of his wounds. Katsuki's breath hitches when soft lips replace soft fingers. Izuku, baby, what are you doing? Does it hurt? Izuku immediately replies worriedly, and Katsuki shakes his head wordlessly, to which Izuku smiles. I'm loving you, all of you. Katsuki chuckles, Greenette up for a deep kiss that has them falling back into their pillows for a while. When they come back to breathe, Katsuki feels himself getting lost in those emerald eyes full of love. I love you so fucking much. Hunger is what drags them out of bed eventually. Hunger for food. Why do you have 2 guns on your bedside table? Izuku asks when he comes back out of the bathroom from his shower with only a towel wrapped around his waist and another drying his hair. Katsuki meets his confused brow and laughs. That would be Eri's projects overseen by Ida during yesterday's events. Izuku gasps and walks over to them to look at them more closely. Not a bad job. They're fun, he mutters, and Katsuki smiles. Yeah, but not really what a 6-year-old should be spending her time on. Izuku looks curiously at them and smiles, but it does not fit the expression in his eyes. She made a baklava in pink for herself, so we'd be matching. She's trying to fit into our world, our life, but we got her out so that she would have a better one. Katsuki frowns, crosses arms. So, what do you suggest we do with her then? Izuku looks up to meet his eyes with a sad look. We have to find her a safe home. People that are safer than we are for her. No one would dare. Katsuki immediately tries to rebuke against the words, but Izuku interrupts him. They already have. Izuku places the guns down and walks over to him to gently place his hands on Katsuki's chest, and it reminds him. They got you. I could never forgive myself if we lost her too. Izuku whispers, and Katsuki pushes one of his curls behind his ear. Then, if we want to get her out of our world, we need someone who can protect her from it. Izuku's eyes seem to glint with a thought, and Katsuki gently strokes Izuku's freckled cheek. Want to share your thoughts with me? He asks, and Izuku flushes from being caught. He always does when he's reminded of how well Katsuki really knows him. Izuku leans his cheek into Katsuki's touch before reaching up to wrap his own arms around Katsuki's neck. Katsuki smiles, moves his hand to gently hold Izuku's chin up into a soft kiss. Izuku pulls back with a thoughtful grin. I think I will be going down to the station to pay my first ever parking ticket. Never in 1,000 years would Katsuki have ever imagined walking into a police station unarmed, with no criminal intent, and with a 6-year-old in his arms. Thankfully enough, they were at least wearing disguises, and his partner in crime was holding his hand. The clerk officer looked as confused about it as Katsuki felt, while Izuku was grinning like a smug bastard's. Hello, it would seem you might have my bike in your possession. The officer gives him a bored look. You have to make an appointment online to book a time slot with an officer to go over the paperwork. I do have an appointment, Izuku tells him with a full confidence, and the man looks disbelieving at him. Name? He's with me. A voice answers before Izuku can even open his mouth, and all three of them turn to the green-eyed blonde. "Follow me, broccoli head." He gestures through the door, and Katsuki shares a look with the brunette, not liking this only for Izuku to smile and follow the blonde officer. "Your family can come with you. It's not like a parking ticket is the worst crime in the world." The officer jokes when he sees Katsuki and Eri stand still in the entrance. Katsuki was not prepared for the officer waiting for them in the room they were led to. "What the fuck is going on here?" Katsuki finally snaps when Izuku lounges on one of the seats provided, and Katsuki puts Eri down so she can run to sit on his laps. Aizawa's eyes are wide at the sight of the little girl. "I'm assuming that's the girl whose file you asked for a while back." "Yes, she's my sister." "Who the fuck are you?" Katsuki decides to ask the blonde extra straight on since no one seemed to be answering him. "Officer Yamada Hizashi. I'm a friend of Aizawa's." "Sure you are," Katsuki grumbles under his breath. "I take it you're not only here for your bike?" Aizawa asks the brunette as he leans back in his desk chair, and Izuku smiles softly at the girl in his lap before looking back up at the officer with an unfeeling face. "I apologize for coming by so late after you went through the effort of trying to keep me unreported. We had an issue to deal with." His lips scowls at the emphasis and the reminder, and Aizawa sighs. "Did that have anything to do with the break-in at the mayor's manor that resulted in the death of numerous guards by blunt force trauma and gun wounds?" "What likely won't be in the papers is that they had it coming," Katsuki tells him, and Izuku shares a glance with him as he adds, "They kidnapped one of our own. He crossed the line." Aizawa holds up his hands in a placating manner. "Don't have to convince me. I know he's not the saint that he depicts himself to be." "Are you here for adoption papers then?" the blonde officer asks, and Katsuki resigns himself to the seat next to Izuku. "No, we're here to erase her paper trail and give her a new life. With or without you." Aizawa looks between them, and Izuku runs a hand through his hair. "She's my sister, but she deserves a safe home." "Do you have one in mind?" "I know an officer that has an emergency foster license and the means to forge paperwork. I also know it's not the first time he's helped a child in need and raised them to be strong and independent." Aizawa doesn't show a sign of recognition to what Izuku is implying, but frowns sheepishly. "If we're being specific, I technically raised and trained too." "Package deals are not uncommon in this city," Izuku jokes and finds Katsuki's hand to squeeze. Aizawa doesn't miss the subtle movement, but keeps his eyes on Eri as she silently watches them. "Are you sure about this?" Officer Yamada asks eventually to break the silence, and Aizawa straightens in his chair. He nods firmly. "She'll be safe with me." "With us," the officer adds, and the couple of mob bosses get whiplash from turning to the officer couple so fast. "Us?" Aizawa grins. "You didn't think you were the only ones who can find a partner in a dangerous line of work?" "Just say we inspired you. Don't be cowards about it." Izuku grins, and Katsuki laughs back. "Ha! It was that dinner, wasn't it?" Aizawa purposely refused to answer, making Katsuki cackle with pride. No one noticed that the girl in the mob boss's lap smiles at the joy on the adults' faces around her. The new paperwork was forged in a timely manner, and the old paper trail burned quickly. In the space of 2 hours, Eri went from being Konshi Shigaraki to being an Aizawa. Izuku and Katsuki would be dropping her off at the officer's home tomorrow with all her stuff, everything they bought for her, so that she could say goodbye to the teams and meet one more person. Izuku was glad that Katsuki insisted on coming with her, and he could see that the blonde's nerves left him entirely when he found out his mother would not be there this time. No matter how feared and dangerous he was, Katsuki will always be scared of one Bakugo Mitsuki. Eri holds both of their hands as they wait for the door. His mother smiles sweetly when she holds the door open for them, looking curiously at the little girl between them. "Mum, we need to talk," Izuku tells her plainly. She nods, steps aside to let them in. Once they're in the apartment, his mother brings them some tea and biscuits before sitting them down on the couch, predicting that she would need to sit down for the information coming her way. Eri sits down with Katsuki on the carpet as he brings out some old coloring books for them to play with. Katsuki sends him a soft look of courage, and Izuku smiles. "Izuku?" his mother asks softly, bringing his attention back to their talk. "Mum, this is Eri, my sister." She gasps, and Izuku sees the recognition of those red eyes flash in her mind as she looks at the girl for a moment. "Honey?" she asks him, and Izuku nods. It's time he told her everything. "The man who fathered me is a horrible man. He is corrupt, he is a monster, and he is the mayor of the city. Tenko, Kai, and I are going to take him down." "Kai?" she stutters, and Izuku rubs at his cheeks sheepishly. "Ah, yes, he is a gang leader too. He was a Yakuza at some point, but he is also a half-brother of mine." She seemed overwhelmed by all the information that all she can manage is nod and frown before looking back at the little girl playing with Katsuki on the ground. "What about her?" "We're going to keep her safe." "With you and Katsuki?" she asks worriedly, and Izuku shakes his head. "No, we found her a safe home, safe from our jobs, safe from the people who would hurt her." She rubs her hands together and sighs worriedly. "I heard on the news that the mayor's staff was killed in the robbery. Was that you?" she asks him in a small voice, yet Katsuki perks up from hearing it. "We didn't rob shit," Katsuki tells her, and his mother turns to the blonde scandalized. "Katsuki, I don't appreciate that language when there's a child present." She chastises him, and he pouts, looking away from her as he mutters an apology. Eri just giggles, to which he scruffles her hair, and they go back to their coloring. "I have never liked the way you decided to go into crime. It always made me worry, but I was reassured that Katsuki was by your side. If you're going to do something as dangerous as overthrow the mayor of our city, you need to promise that you won't do it alone. No more of the separate gang thing anymore. You've always worked better together." Izuku takes her hand and answers in a soft voice, but still clear. "I won't be doing it alone, Mum. I promise. I'll have my brothers by my side." Katsuki scoffs and smiles at her. "Don't worry, Auntie. I'll take care of him." His mother doesn't react to her son, and simply smiles back at Katsuki, before sighing. I do wish you'd give up crying altogether one day. The couple laugh. Sure, one day, when the city is cleaned up and Eri can grow up better than we did, Katsuki tells her, and Izuku smiles at him. Yeah, one day. Eri was asleep in Katsuki's arms by the time they made it back home. Ochaka and Suyu were happy to take her from him to put her to bed, since it would be her last night here, which led them to simply retire to Izuku's quarters. Katsuki fell face first onto his bed the moment the door was closed behind him, and Izuku couldn't hold in his amusement as he watched Katsuki flop his whole body over to look at Izuku. The greenette went straight to making them a snack, since they had declined to have dinner at his mother's due to the self-implied invitation of Mitsuki Katsuki, who made it clear that he did not want to deal with his mum today. So they left before she could arrive. Izuku could feel his boyfriend's red eyes watch his every movement, but stayed focused on his task, until he felt strong arms wrapped around his waist from behind. Move in with me, Katsuki grumbles into his neck, and Izuku goes still at the proposal. What? Move in with me, Katsuki repeats, and Izuku drops what he was doing in favor to hide behind his hands. My building is nicer than yours. It's also bigger, so your team can move in too. We'll merge our operations and our personal lives. It's not like we have anything to hide anymore. Even our enemies know what we mean to each other. I don't want to have any regrets when it comes to you. Katsuki explains, and when he's done, Izuku turns around in his arms. Is this because of what my mum said? Katsuki laughs and gives him a peck. No, I love you, and waking up this morning next to you in my bed, I realized I don't want to not have that. Getting taken away to be a bait put things into perspective. I don't want to wake up without you ever again. Izuku can't help but the waterworks as they stream down his face. It's been a stressful couple of days. He buries himself in Katsuki's chest as he sobs. I love you, and you're right. Your building is nicer. I've always hated you for taking that building first. I know, nerd. I bought it exactly for that reason. Katsuki chuckles, and Izuku sniffed into his shirt before looking back up at him, snotty-nosed and tear-stained eyes and cheeks. Yes, I'll move in with you. Katsuki snorts and kisses his nose. You make it sound like I just proposed. Izuku smiles. For all I care, you just did. Chapter 9. That means we evil then. Monoma enters the meeting room grinning like a Cheshire cat, Hitoshi on his heels and Kendo by his side, ready to jump into action if he says a word out of line. Is it me, or has this entire building undergone a redecoration? I swear there's this new mixed flair to your operation. Katsuki and Deku glares at the dramatic blonde from their dual position at the head of the table. Deku gives him a manic smile of his own as he explains, From here on out, our gang will be called Diner Deku. Since our enemies know that we are each other's weakness, there's no point in hiding it. Oh, you're getting married? Monoma mock-coos. We would if it was legal in Japan. Katsuki growls at him, and Monoma scoffs unimpressed. As if we ever do anything legal in our line of work. Are you and Hitoshi married? Katsuki snidely retorts, and Monoma huffs as the purple-haired man looks away. No, but they act like an old married couple most of the time. Kendo happily replies in his stead. Both looked offended at the words, and Katsuki snorts. Lucky enough, the line of conversation is interrupted when Tomura walks through the door, Darby by his side. The tattooed man spots Kendo in the room and grins. Shit, Ami's gonna be upset that she missed out on the opportunity to officially meet you. She has a thing for girls with wicked talents. I have a feeling by the amount of meetings we've been having in the last month, she'll likely get the chance in the future. Kendo responds with a shrug of her shoulders, and Darby chuckles as he lounges back against the wall behind the chair that Tomura has seated himself in. Are we waiting for anyone else? Monoma asks when the doors remain open, and Deku and Tomura share a look before the brunette nods. The last attendee takes the next moment to make his appearance, strutting through the door with his own second hand at his heel. The man dressed in white bows politely at everyone in the room on entry, and so does Chisaki as he greets them. Monoma gasps in outrage when Chisaki pulls up a chair at the table. What the fuck is going on here? He yells, standing up from his seat abruptly. Deku laces his hands together on the table. Chisaki Kai, Shigaraki Tomura, and Ahai share parentage on our deadbeat father's side. How is your daddy issues a problem of mine? The pale blonde snaps back, and Deku gives a dark look. Because he is the mayor of this city and the lord of the underground, and we've had enough of him, so we're planning on overthrowing him. Monoma raises an intrigued but disturbed brow at him, but ultimately sits back down. Are you trying to put me out of business? I make a living off stealing from his crooked underlings. That's why we're offering you a new deal. Tomura chimes in, and Chisaki sits up straight. Instead of random crooks lower down the food chain, we'll make targeted attacks. Start attacking people in his pockets, enough to start taking down all of which he builds himself on. If we take away the people that he stands on to hold onto his power, he'll have nothing left. Now I understand what you bring to the table. You have all the insider information. Monoma huffs, and Deku grins. He also has context with other powerful figures that would be happy to help us set this city straight again. Then we'll need to recruit anyone we can to fund and follow us, he says matter-of-factly, and Katsuki grins proudly at the brunette as Deku nods. In this case, we've already started. Tomura has contacts that lead to Earphone Jack and the Hitman duo. The older man nods in the confirmation, and Monoma looks impressed. I have contacts within the seedier part of town, and Bakugo has contacts that lead to influences and intelligence contacts. How did you manage those? Monoma asks the blonde, and Katsuki grins proudly. Mina and Denki have multiple uses. Deku doesn't mention his contact within the police. Since the man helped them out with Eri, he doesn't want him getting involved in this. The next part was clear. Each would need to talk to their contacts and update them on the situation, making sure where their loyalties lie and clear it up if deemed necessary. So, who'll succeed him when all is said and done? Monoma then asks the old-fated question as they deem the meeting to an end. All three brothers share a look and grin. Us, of course. Many months of preparation later, just as they'd done before, they started from bottom and worked their way up, each still conquering their parts of the city, while Monoma targeted all for one's peoples, one at a time. The targets he took out funded the operation alongside the influential duo Yamomo and Ayuma. The two had started cooperating with Earphone Jack and the intelligence duo that is Shoji and Kodar. It made getting detailed information that much easier and more precise, having gone through 2 research methods. All for One is holding his annual banquet on Saturday. All of his investors and loyal men will be attending, as they usually do, for their annual rounds of licking the mayor's feet for his favor and goodwill. I have advised others already, and they have agreed to attend. Deku, you at the very least should be seen present with them. It will make it publicly clear that you are official players. Ayoma updates them in his usually overly accentuated French accent as he stands tall in their office. Deku sitting on the chair and Katsuki leaning against the desk. They have 2 desks in the office, but Katsuki always preferred to copy Deku's space rather than having his own. He also prefers to nag and tidy after the green net instead of only keeping his own desk creaky clean. What are Darby and Kurono doing? Katsuki asks the blonde, and he consults his phone to answer. Kurono being Kai's assistant, he is also versatile in all his abilities to serve the man. They will be in the area in case of backup. It's not a bad idea to have some members on hand in case it goes south. This will be the first time you 3 show your faces out in public as a unit since starting to cut down on his business. Ayoma informs them further, and Katsuki hums in thought. Then I'll take Shoto and Mina with me. We should maybe arrange with the others to have some members around the perimeter. Deku thinks out loud, but his blonde partner shoots that down immediately. I'm not losing sight of you, nerd. Katsuki huffs, and Deku sighs. Ayoma smiles at the interaction. Just remember that you'll be patted down on entry, so if you want to take weapons with you, they will have to be hidden well in your body. To visit father, dearest? The only weapon I need is my brain and my smile. Deku smirks, and Ayoma laughs. Tres Semont. Katsuki rolls his eyes at the flattery, and the other blonde makes a polite exit. Yamomo took care of your attire. I hope you find it to your liking. Deku thanks him genuinely and politely before the door closes, and Katsuki scoffs. A new suit? Deku pushes his chair away from the desk to see him better and shrugs. Appearances like this matter. Besides, the suit is part of a collection. Katsuki rolls his eyes. Let me guess, your brothers are wearing the other 2? Deku grins at that before standing and walking over to the blonde. If you're feeling jealous, Kachan, I did order something special for you. He coos, and Katsuki scowls as he pulls Izuku in closer against him. That tone promises nothing good. Mina and Ochako watched over me the entire time I designed it. Izuku tries to reassure him, and it turns the scowl into a pout. I could have helped too. Heck, years under the hag's nagging, I would think I learned some fucking shit. Izuku smiles at him and gives him a peck. You'll like it, Izuku promises, and Katsuki looks at him, doubtful, but pulls him in for a kiss regardless. The night of the party was all it promised to be, as it was in full swing when the trio arrived. Domura has his hands in his trouser pockets. Kai straightened the cuffs of his white gloves, and Izuku straightened out his tie that Katsuki had tied for him. They entered the grand room side by side with matching grins, as the host of the party stopped mid-conversation to look at his newly arrived guests. Naturally, the mayor didn't let any of his annoyance and irritation show, lest anyone in the crowd think that the new arrivals are anyone important to approach. "Fucking bastard," Katsuki scoffs as he looks down through his binoculars at the party. He arrived with his own trio on a nearby roof that was scouted to be the best viewpoint for the party. The nerd looked smoking hot from where he was watching over the party, and he'll never enjoy admitting it after all the fuss he put up. But his nerd does have an eye for practical gear. The suit that Deku commissioned for him was comfy as fuck, and useful too. Entirely black with only a couple of accents of color on his hood and an X on his chest, all in orange of course, his signature color. Shoto and Mina had similar gear in their own colors. It was when he saw Shoto put his gear on like a second nature that Katsuki understood. All of Deku's team had this gear previously. Deku just commissioned Katsuki's team to fit the uniform. That realization made him grin with pride. "You can all at your boyfriend later, boss." Darby spotted snipers posting themselves around the perimeter. Shoto informs him in an even tone, and Katsuki clicks his tongue that he got caught in his thoughts of the nerd. "It would seem the mayor has his own security team in place," Mina comments as Shoto is being relayed further info by his brothers through their connected comms. As Deku's right-hand man, he is in charge of communication between Tomura's II and Kai's. The last time those three were in a building together owned by the mayor, a massacre took place, Katsuki reminds her, and she winces as she nods in understanding. Katsuki's eyes don't leave his partner as the party moves on, or as Mina sets up her own gear beside him to cover any unwanted arrivals. As predicted, the mayor kept his eyes on all three of them without acknowledging either one of them. Yet it was clear by how his men were scrambling behind the scenes that he was clearly caught off guard by the united arrival. The brothers took it in stride as Deku animatedly talked to politicians and other guests, making some connections. Kai made his own rounds since he actually knew some people personally, while Tomura kept to himself, hiding against the wall as he watched the crowd instead. Katsuki followed Deku's line of attention when he spotted a pair of guests that clearly were undercover party crashers. It seemed all the players on board were making their intentions known. Darby had reached out to them after the massacre, but until now the cooperation hadn't been confirmed. Their presence at the party is their answer. Just like Katsuki knows that Yomomo and Aoyama's trusted intelligence team is on the scene as they should be to do what they do best. "It's really all coming together, huh?" Mina comments under her breath, and Katsuki grins. "This is only the fucking start." "And it seems the mayor wants to halt anything before it even starts," Shoto remarks as he points to a nearby rooftop where a fucker is making his way closer to their position. Mina clicks her tongue. "That must be one of his snipers. They've likely been ordered to take them out at any convenient point. Having guests snipe down at his party doesn't seem very settling," Shoto comments, and she shrugs, sending one more side-eyed sniper picking his roof and settling down. "He's likely gonna play it off as a gang spat," Katsuki scoffs, not sparing another glance at the extra and keeping his eyes on his nerd. "As if I'd let anyone get away with shooting Deku." Shoto groans as Mina giggles. Katsuki follows the party through Deku's steps, recognizing faces and connecting the names from the file they were given by the intelligence and Kai's own former connections. His partner is very clever in who he interacts with. only daring to approach those who are truly in support of the mayor, to spread seeds of doubt in his carefully constructed structure of power. Each of the brothers have their own missions tonight. While Deku is spreading seeds of doubt and chaos, Kai is simply pretending that he is at odds with his former partner, greeting all his own connections, subtly letting them know that tides have changed. Tomura's is simple. He is in charge of watching the crowd and noting the ones that showed up to the party because it was expected of them, or because they enjoyed being there. The ones that approached the mayor, and the ones that fought to hide their snarl at the mere presence of him. The political world is never pretty, but many don't get to choose to agree with All for One. They simply do what they are told, after the likely threat or two. The question is how many are willing to do something about it. Katsuki spots as Deku makes eye contact with Kai across the room. Something is exchanged between them through that line alone. Mina spots it too. Something's going on, she voices out loud to Shoto, who already got an ear against his comm device. The mayor's making a speech. He's asking everyone to gather around the tables. Shoto relays what he's been told. Katsuki curses as he looks around to see what the old bastard is playing at. He's trying to round them up into an easy shot, he mutters when he figures it out and leans back. Shoto understands immediately and relays it back. Darby is heading for the snipers pointed at Tomura, so are Kai's men. Shoto informs them, and Mina moves the next second, but Katsuki halts as Deku's eyes seem to find his. In his eyes, he knows. His nerd is fully aware and has a plan. Dramatic fucker. Katsuki mutters lovingly under his breath, but does not second-guess his nerd. Deku's got a plan. We'll wait for his signal, but we'll post ourselves right behind the bastards. Katsuki orders, and while Mina looks like she wasn't to object, Deku's second only rolls his eyes. It doesn't take much waiting on their end as the crowd shifts to uncover the three brothers, standing tall and proud, fully in the line of sight of the snipers, ready to take them down. The crowd raises their glass in salute to whatever the mayor just said as the brothers each take a step instead, bowing their heads to each other in a silent signal before each turn to look their own ways up in the distance. Kai spots it the moment that Deku makes eye contact with the extra. "That's our signal," he orders the other two as they stand up to make their move, crossing the rooftops behind the extra that he thinks he can point a sniper at his partner and not suffer the consequences. That thinks that Deku is stupid enough to come without any backup or lookout to protect him. The fucker didn't even bother to check his surroundings. They move in quick succession and precise moves, landing right behind him. "Target spotted," the fucker tells someone through his comms. Katsuki clicks the safety of his handgun, the one Eri decorated for him, and points it right against the back of the extra's head. The fucker tenses immediately. First smart thing he's done all night, and Katsuki sees Deku laugh, wink into the lens from afar, grinning as if he knows who he's looking at. In the distance, two other shots ring through the night in succession. With a smile, Katsuki pulls the trigger. Hey guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please drop a kudos for Ghost Girl Anna for this lovely series. And what a lovely series it has been, going from introduction from all the way in chapter 1 to 9 chapters in. And we finally see All for One. Well, we don't see it, we get it hinted at that All for One is done business. No more doing anything. He's out of the picture now. Well, yeah. I mean, I think the last part got confusing, but to be fair, Ghost Girl Anna was on time crunch because on the note previous chapter, she did say she was writing this after holiday, so she was probably really tired and trying to get through things done. But either way, it's a lovely series. Please give kudos to them, and the compilation. The compilation of all 9 chapters will be out during my break, so that all of you can enjoy something while I'm gone. Anyway, bye!